the fuck is wrong with y'all? Genuinely, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with y'all. You're talking about like a worldwide network of children getting raped, of cannibalization happening, of people, of children getting unalived, and you guys are bringing politics into it. You guys are fucking weird. Just wanted to say this. You're really weird. Anybody who has subjected any child or any person to harm needs to be held accountable. Okay? Anyways. Noah Models. There are 3 documentaries, by the way, on this, where they accuse him of recruiting children as models. Noah Models, which Daniel Syed tells Epstein in an email, used to scout for Trump, is featured in his 2011 PBS documentary Girl Model, about modeling scouts recruiting girls as young as 13 in Siberia and the predatory results. So basically, they were hiring girls as young as 13 years old. Right? As long as 13 years old. The people telling me don't concentrate on Trump, I'm so sorry. I had a whole live talking about Bill Clinton. Y'all need to chill the fuck out. I don't know why you're being protective over any child rapist, allegedly. I had a whole live talking about Bill Clinton. Calm the fuck down. Okay? Anyways, now let's go to Ramsey. Anybody who protects like child rapists, I'm looking at you, okay? This guy is also somebody who's not really talked about, by the way. Has anybody in the chat heard of this guy? Because I haven't seen a lot of people talk about him. And his name is Ramsey Al-Kohli. Okay? This guy is disgusting. So Ramsey Al-Kohli is a New York-based music collective, Monotronic. In a conversation dated October 2016 with Ramsey Al-Kohli, Epstein received information about Ford models and other Brazilian modeling agencies. Al-Kohli was identified in 2023 Wall Street Journal investigation as a musician and anthropologist who introduced several women to Epstein. Oh, this is wrong. Okay, this shouldn't be here. There we go. So let's go through his emails, because this guy is actually vile, okay? And these are just some of his emails. There are so many more. I think I'm going to dedicate like a whole episode, like a whole live to him, because there are over 1,000 emails of this guy, okay? So it says here, this is from Ramsey to Epstein. He says, I've met with the Easton people twice already as a prospective client, and I sent Michaela in to get some info as well. Pretty strange operation. The guys pay like $34,000 for 6 months, but they only get 1 date per week, maximum 2, and they don't let you see a pic of the girl before the date. You're supposed to trust them completely. They showed Michaela a photo of a guy they wanted to set her up with, but when I asked to see a photo of a girl, they told me they can't for privacy reasons. Also very strange that they have a 40 client limit, guys, but when I asked how many girls, they have told me 1,500. What does that say about them? Any girl with legs can get in. Or maybe they just wanted me to believe they had that many girls, judging by the fact that they showed one of their clients' photos to Michaela. Now that's not that bad, right? But look at him here. He says, Camilla, the Polish girl from a couple years ago, movies is in town. She asked about you, so I guess she's ready. I got back from Miami last week. He's basically telling Epstein, I got a girl ready for you from Poland, right? And then it says here, He's saying, sorry, the last email was not complete. I asked Jean-Luc if he would take the girl with him on a private plane this week. He asked who it was. I told him to meet her. That's it. Nothing to do with modeling. Sorry for the confusion. From Jeffrey to somebody else. And then Ramsey responds, I understand. I don't think you would do that to me. I really want you to meet her. In my opinion, she's the best girl I've sent you. She's a gift that I had been planning on giving you upon your return. I'm so sorry. Tell me this is not extremely dehumanizing. Right? She's a gift that I had been planning on giving you upon your return. Next has her on appointments this week, but if you want to see her, let me know and I'll try to have her stay longer. And then Epstein says, when is she leaving? Right? And then this is another one. Right? He says, I'm in Riga, Latvia. Amazing girls, many blondes with great bodies. A redacted emailed me saying you killed her with your words, calling her silly, etc. She's alone this last week in New York and has lost dollars on this trip. She's desperate for cash. I've been working on her. She agreed with me that posing in lingerie is part of her job, and she told me she would have no problem to do that with you, but she doesn't have the courage to propose it herself. I know it doesn't seem like much, but it's a step. She plans on coming back to New York, so I'm thinking she could be an ongoing project. For me, it's a great experiment, taking a girl who hadn't been with a guy until she was 23 and then getting her to this point. I think you're in a good position because she's a drama queen, and in the past, she has had similar things. Jeffrey killed me with his words. And then you would call her the next day and she would be happy. She is sufficiently confused, and I think you can get some mileage out of this. Otherwise, hope all is fine with you. We'll keep you updated on my travels. Tallinn, Estonia is next. I'm sorry. Did you see how he said, I've been working on her? Did you see how he said that he's been working on her? Right? And he's saying that she is desperate for cash. Right? She's desperate for cash, and she could be an ongoing project. Right? And then it says here, hold on. This one says, I'll be in Paris next week. How is Riga, Estonia? Then he says, redacted is amazing. Almost every girl here has a great body. I'm having a blast so far. Went to Jermala today on the Baltic coast. Marta gave me and a girlfriend of hers her Bentley with driver for the day. Connected with about a dozen amazing girls. Some we invited for lunch, others for coffee. Got many phone numbers. Will be difficult to keep up with them all. You should consider paying a visit here. Almost every girl here is blue or green eyes and tons of blondes. Love it here so far. Don't know if I'll be able to leave and go to Estonia. Thinking to just stay here for a couple more weeks. We'll keep you updated. I hope you're getting some mileage out of redacted situation, being all alone here last week in New York, etc. Right? I'm so sorry. 1 second. Hold on. Wait. I'm not profiting off of this, by the way. Just wanted to say that. 1 second. The reason I say if you want to support me, you can definitely support me is because I take fucking ages to do the mind maps, to do the research, right? To do the research, to do the mind maps, to go through all of this, to read through this, right? It is active mental and also emotional labor, right? So if anybody wants to support me, they can support me, but I'm not putting any of this behind a paywall. Whatever you're saying is actually disgusting. Anyways, what else is this? Hold on. So basically this guy is like legitimately actually fucking disgusting, by the way, right? Hold on. And then you have this person who was mentioned already prior. Thank you for the gifts, by the way. Appreciate you guys for everything. Daniel Amr Siad, right? Daniel Amr Siad. This guy is a recruiter under John Luke, right? So here he says his bank account for Amr Siad, we will pay him 3,000 euros every month for scouting for a 6-month period on all models we get from him. We will pay him 5% commissions on their earnings. I'm preparing a written agreement. You can transfer the money now. Thank you. This guy was getting commission. Imagine. This guy was getting commission off of every girl he recruited. Okay? And then it says here, hold on. Right here. I'm in touch with her. She had casting. She didn't have the time. I'm following her. I will meet her next week. Hopefully after the shows are over. Right? And then here, in the time being, Redacted could come to Barcelona. I have a room for her so she can scout with me. She needs to practice. Why is this name Redacted? Why is this name Redacted? This is a person who is helping him scout, quote unquote, practicing how to scout people. So why is she redacted? Why is this person, I don't know why I said she, why is this person redacted? Right? Because Barcelona is full of tourists this time of year, better than Paris. It's always easier when there is a girl around. I have a oh my God. So first of all, he's going to Barcelona because of the tourists, which means they're specifically targeting tourists. Okay? And second of all, the person who was redacted is a woman, because he said it's always easier when there is a girl around. It's always easier when there's a girl around. I have a nice apartment. I love cooking, so we can really make a great team here. Tell me, what is your opinion? Right? So again, targeting tourists. Here's another one. Here he's again. Her name is Alicia, French, Brazilian, not model, but cute. Very sweet right now. She works as a waitress at Fortune restaurant. So even when he's eating out, he's trying to recruit girls for Epstein. Right? Here he says, here are the pictures of Fontip Wacharatrak. I'm so sorry that I butchered that, by the way. Actress and model from Thailand that you missed just when you left. I just received her pictures. So he's going worldwide. This guy is basically a traveling scout, right? A recruiter. So he went to Estonia, I think, or was the other guy who went to Estonia? He went to Thailand. He went to Barcelona. Right? Here he says, hello, Jeffrey. I'll be traveling with a train and bus, and sometimes we have... Why do all these people have horrible spelling? Horrific spelling, by the way. Right? Hello, Jeffrey. I'll be traveling with train and bus, and sometimes we have to take taxi sometime. I have to invite the parents for lunch or cafe. I have some girls already who are there waiting for me, like in Poland. So I have to give them some money, so it's going to be not less than 4,000 euros. Right now, Poland city named Krakow. Slovakia is the right place to be. I have already one lady waiting for me to see more than 45 models. City named Koshi Olomouc, I think. Then I'll be traveling to Budapest. I'll send you a full report in every city that I was. Most of the girls I find here are already with different agencies. I like when I do real scouting, and besides, I have this camera. It's very helpful. Voila. Let me know what you think. My warmest regards. Again, the parents are selling their children. This is basically what it is. The parents are selling their children. So the children that we have seen up until now has been either children from very vulnerable homes, homeless kids, foster care, adoption, all this stuff, right? But in this case, some of the kids are also being sold by their quote-unquote birth parents or parents who are supposed to be there to take care of them. And he is literally traveling through these countries looking for new victims. Right? Here he says, yesterday I spoke of Daniel Syed, whom Jean-Luc Brunel describes as a scout or recruiter of girls and or women for Jeffrey Epstein. Attached to this incoming email from Brunel is the contact information he has for Syed. Right? Hold on. And then here he says, hello, Jeffrey. We had a great meeting today afternoon. We have another meeting to follow up. More interesting news tomorrow with pictures, photos. Money was sent back from your Dubai account. We'll redirect to Sweden. It's better Dubai. I will speak with my bank in Dubai. Something was missing. I had a very interesting contacts in place to tout régulier. I don't know. Month. They advised me not to take pictures, but I have meet very interesting contacts in place. You see how worldwide this is? Just wanted to say that. You see how worldwide this is? And then you have Hind al-Awais. Hind al-Awais is an Emirati woman, okay, who is currently the head of the Human Rights Committee in the UAE. Human rights. That's what she's a director of. Human rights. human rights and UAE is such an oxymoron. But anyways, this woman also recruited girls for Epstein. Here she is telling him, hold on. Getting one girl ready is difficult enough. 2 girls, you can certainly call a challenge. We might even be late. Let Susan call me if you're on the right schedule. Then he says, if you could come closer to 11, I would like more time with you too. Right? And then she sends him another email right here. Are you in town? My sister is here and I've told her so much about you. I want her to meet you. Let me know when. Then he says, any day until sun, would you like to come to lunch on Saturday with her? Then she says, hi, already in discussion with redacted on time. I'm so excited to see you and introduce you to my sister. She's even prettier than me. She recruited her sister. No, you're supposed to read the emails from the bottom to the top. That's how it is. I think. Yeah, it's a thread. It's a thread, so you read it from the bottom to the top because it's a thread. Not from up to bottom. That's not how you do it. But yeah, no, she's basically talking about the sister. Yes, look at the timestamps. The timestamps is bottom to top, y'all. He writes at 1:18 a.m., then responds at 6:37 a.m., then at 4:52 p.m. Okay, so it is from top to bottom, y'all. I know what I'm doing. Yeah, she's willing to recruit her sister, by the way. But Director of Human Rights, right? And then she says here, hello, Hind. Jeffrey says you and your sister may stop by to see him tomorrow. Is it possible? Please let me know. Then she says, hi, redacted. I had emailed Jeffrey. He suggested Saturday, which works better for me. Perhaps a morning visit around 11:30 or 12. Would that work? Then they say, thanks. As a reminder, Jeffrey lives at 9 East 71st Street between 5th and Madison. Hind, 11:30 on Saturday will work for you and your sister. May I have your sister's name? She says, hey, yes, works out great. My sister's name is Hala Al-Awais. This woman is selling out her own sister, bro. No, she's not oblivious to what's happening. She's a UAE diplomat, okay? The UAE is not innocent. The UAE was very much aware of what Jeffrey Epstein was saying. Right? Very much aware of what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. So Hind Al-Awais is a prominent diplomat from the UAE. She has been mentioned 469 times in the Epstein files. Al-Awais is currently the director of the UAE Permanent Committee for Human Rights. She has also represented the UAE at the United Nations. She has recruited girls and her own sister. Right? The United Nations is a fucking joke as well. Right? So then you go to, I think, the worst of them all, Jean-Luc Brunel. Jean-Luc Brunel is a French modeling agent and close associate, or was, of the late U.S. financier and sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Brunel co-founded French modeling agency Karen Models in 1977 and MC2 Model Management in the U.S. with funding from Epstein. Prosecutors suspected Brunel of graping, SAing, and SHing multiple minors and adults. They also suspected him of transporting and housing young girls and young women for Epstein. Now, if you see here, there was an unredacted list that was sent, by the way, that was released since, they released it recently. And he's on that unredacted list as well, Jean-Luc Brunel. Now, look what he says here. He tells from Epstein to Brunel. Epstein tells him, "You like her?" Question mark. And Brunel says, "More than the redacted. I'm not Abrahamovich neither. I carry aspirin with me. Thanks, but no thanks." And then here, oh, hold on. Here, this is an email from Daniel Syed. So again, Daniel Syed basically works with Brunel, right? So look at this. It says here, Cordero confirmed that Brunel uses MC2, which was the modeling agency that he co-created with Epstein, by the way. Cordero confirmed that Brunel uses MC2 as a legitimate transport agency of underage girls into America for purposes of sex. Which, I don't know why they're saying sex or sex when it has to do with underage girls, because underage girls cannot consent. So it's just grape, okay? But anyways, I digress. Brunel uses MC2 to introduce underage girls to Epstein, since Epstein gave him $1 million to start up MC2 after he was fired from various modeling agencies in Paris, his hometown. Right? Here's the rest. According to Cordero, Brunel has always been Epstein's principal supplier of underage girls. So this was the main recruiter for Epstein. He's a principal supplier of underage girls using MC2 as a cover-up. MC2 is also a legitimate business in that it transports some underage models for hire and contracts them out to other sources for fees. Many of the underage girls that Brunel and Epstein shared and liked continue to live in Brunel's one-bedroom apartment in New York. Some lived in Epstein's East 66th Street apartments in Manhattan. There were some underage girls living there now. The principal business of MC2, based in South Beach, where Brunel now resided, is to transport underage girls for purposes of sexual pleasure for Brunel and Epstein, according to various sources interviewed, including Cordero. Cordero confirmed that former President Clinton was on Clinton. I'm so sorry. Bill fucking Clinton is literally the usual suspect, okay? This man is everywhere. Just wanted to say that. Hold on, where was I? The Cordero confirmed that former President Clinton was on Epstein's plane with Brunel several times with underage girls. Obviously, this is hearsay, since he also mentioned that he was not there. Cordero stated that Brunel told him this information. Cordero confirmed that Brunel and Epstein traveled the world to source underage victims for purposes of sex and lure them with modeling contracts and the possibility of a better and wealthier lifestyle. As an aside, Epstein's house manager, Alfredo Rodriguez, was arrested for obstruction of justice on November 9th for attempting to sell Notebook, the Golden Nugget, to an undercover agent for $50,000. That notebook contained and confirmed all allegations and had photos, emails, and notes outlining Epstein and Brunel's sex trafficking scheme. This is from the Epstein files, by the way. Right? Anybody who's saying this is fake, it's from the Epstein files. This is Jeffrey to Brunel saying, "I miss talking to you. I'm ready to sit with you at your convenience. There are many things happening that may satisfy your needs." And then here he tells him, "Does Marta have fake tits? How do you know Olga? How old are those pictures?" So it's Jeffrey telling John Luke that. And then Jean-Luc tells him, Marta, I'm sure, fake, but I didn't ask Olga. That's her new pics. I know her since 2006, worked in the bank, then became friends, but not a good friend of mine. Very tall, 181, athletic, smart, not like me, but... Then Jeffrey Epstein says, I would like Jean-Luc to see her, not for modeling, just for a second opinion. Olga have her send photos. Then Jeff says, Martina, bats, and modeling. Right? So this is the mind map that I've been working on, by the way. These are just... Hold on. These are just some of the inner circle and outer circle of recruiters, by the way. People who enabled Epstein. Now, the reason as to why I'm doing this, right, is to illustrate and emphasize how many people enabled Epstein. And how many people, right, how many people helped him grape children. Right? This is precisely why I'm doing this. What is this? EFTA 016 82 450. What is this? Diplomat Hotel. Oh, yeah. Interesting. Thank you for this is seized evidence. But I do want to go to this video that I also found, by the way. Before I go to Les Wexner, because I'm going to focus on Les Wexner today. I found this video.
Yet another.
Which was so weird to me, by the way. Watch this video, okay? Hold on.
Yet another woman in Donald Trump's life. Tennis star Monica Seles, the top-ranking female player in the world, stunned everybody when she suddenly dropped out of Wimbledon. Now she turned up at the Trump mansion in Florida. Rosanna Scotto reports.
She was a minor, by the way. Just wanted to say that. She's like 17, I think. Right? She's like 17, I think, but it's so normalized. Hold on.
The top-ranking female player in the world.
16, thank you.
Stunned everybody when she suddenly dropped out of Wimbledon. Now she turned up at the Trump mansion in Florida. Rosanna Scotto reports.
I know a dark, secluded place, a place where no one knows your face, a glass of wine, a fast embrace. It's called Hernando's Hideaway. Ole.
Forget about Hernando's Hideaway. Mar-a-Lago has turned into Donald Trump's hideaway for tennis fugitive Monica Seles. Seles mysteriously disappeared after abruptly dropping out of the Wimbledon Championships 10 days ago, only to strangely resurface at Trump's palatial Florida estate. The mega developer reportedly invited the 17-year-old Yugoslav to stay at his home so she could avoid reporters trying to find out why she skipped the tournament. But why would Trump want to get involved in this? Could this eligible bachelor have met his match?
I'm so sorry. The journalist is so disgusting. She says, could this eligible bachelor have met his match? What the hell?
The editor of Tennis Magazine could only guess.
Athletes attract all kinds of people. Say, we have a term for them called jock sniffers, which the term, people who feel somewhat bigger by hanging around with athletes or celebrities, and I think it doesn't matter what social status you're from.
Trump has been known to be a big tennis fan. In fact, he found found himself in some trouble last year when he was squiring Argentine tennis star Gabriela Sabatini around his casino in Atlantic City. She was 19 years old, underage according to Jersey law. Trump was served with a fine. While Mr. Trump would not comment on this latest tennis friendship, a published report says the Donald is really not interested in Monica romantically. In fact, her parents are staying with her at Mar-a-Lago.
She's kind of a melodramatic kid. She's always said she wants to be an actress, and she's loves LA, and I can see myself in LA in a few years, but this is a little bit too Mata Hari-ish, even for tennis.
In Manhattan, Rosanna Scotto, Fox 5 News.
Tell me this isn't creepy. Tell me this isn't creepy. It's just, it's a very, very scary to me, right? And speaking of scary, I did want to go to Lex, because that's the topic for today. Lex Wexner, or Les Wexner, sorry. Now who is Les Wexner? Right? Becca Day. Do you guys know this creator? Becca Day on TikTok. She is a mutual of mine, and she did a beautiful breakdown on Les Wexner, right? Les Wexner is an American billionaire businessman and political activist. He's also the co-founder of Bath and Body Works, and he has been the principal in Abercrombie and Fitch, Victoria's Secret, and La Senza, amongst several other retail corporations, right? Yes. So Becca Day is a mutual of mine, and I saw her introduction video, and I just thought it was genuinely amazing, right? So I want to play that introduction video for you guys, okay? She's an amazing creator, and she has a 5-6 piece or whatever it is. I didn't watch the rest, but
all right, it's time.
I did think that this was a really, really good video, right? Perfectly put together. So I did want to go through this first video itself.
All right, it's time for us to start getting into Les Wexner. And before we begin, let me just preface this with saying the Les Wexner rabbit hole is vast and extensive. I want to do my best to try to kind of build you guys a...
Her name is Becca Day. You can see it at the bottom. She's a mutual of mine. She's a really good creator and does really good deep dives as well. And she did a really good first episode on Les Wexner. You guys really need to go follow her after this. But I just want to show this first episode on it before I do a deep dive into Les Wexner. And the deep dive today is going to be fucking insane, by the way, right? This includes Saudi Arabia. It includes Iran. It includes Israel. It includes the American government. And it includes Nicaragua. This deep dive that I kind of like put together, by the way, after we get an introduction into who Les Wexner is a crazy deep dive. Oh, it also includes Princess Diana. Princess Diana is also included in this deep dive, by the way. Okay? So, I'm not saying that she's a perpetrator. Don't get me wrong. She's not a perpetrator. But she is included in this deep dive. One way or the other. Crazy ass deep dive. So, stay tuned for that because it is actually fucking insane.
Timeline of who Les Wexner is, how he got so wealthy, how he's attached to Jeffrey, some of the scandals he's been involved in. So we're going to touch on a lot of different things. but there's going to be certain subjects we are not going to fully dissect for the sake of time and brevity. So consider this deep dive to kind of be like your overview of Les Wexner's life. This deep dive is very important because Les Wexner is one of those people who made certain decisions in his career that we are paying the price for in present day. Leslie Herbert Wexner was born on September 8th of 1937 in Dayton, Ohio. His father, Harry Wexner, was born in Russia but immigrated to the United States, and his mother, Bella, was born in Brooklyn but grew up in Ohio. Les Wexner also grew up with his younger sister, Susan, and they grew up in a very traditional Jewish household. After he graduated from high school, Les Wexner would attend Ohio State University.
If somebody just came in right now, I said that I thought this particular video from Becca Day was a really good introductory video. So I wanted to also, in case anybody does not know who Becca Day is, I wanted to kind of show this introductory clip. And then after that, I wanted to do my deep dive into how Iran is involved, Israel involved, Nicaragua, America, and all these other different people, right?
At Ohio State University, he was a part of a fraternity, and he would go on to graduate with a degree in business administration. After graduating from college, Les Wexner would go on to briefly serve in the Air National Guard, and he would also go on to briefly attend Moritz College of Law, but he did not complete his studies here. He instead went on to begin a career in retail. And he chose to go into a retail career because he was inspired by his parents, whom he watched growing up run and operate their own retail clothing store called Leslie's, named after their son. With the degree that he got at Ohio State University in business administration, he attempted to work with his parents at Leslie's to make the store more profitable, but his parents were not interested in the ideas that he had, so he just went on to open his own retail clothing store. So in 1963, Les Wexner would get a $5,000 loan from his aunt, and then he would get a matching loan from the bank, and with that $10,000 combined, he would open his own store called The Limited. Long story short, The Limited was very successful, and by 1976, Les Wexner had opened his 100th location of The Limited retail store. In 1982, Les Wexner acquired the women's apparel chain Lane Bryant as well as Victoria's Secret after the founder, Roy Raymond, along with his wife, filed for bankruptcy. In later interviews after acquiring Victoria's Secret and doing this business dealing with Roy Raymond, he explained how he had observed that Roy Raymond was very standoffish around him and just very cold towards him, almost afraid of him. Les Wexner recalled how he felt like when Roy Raymond looked at him, it was as if Roy Raymond was looking at the devil, which is...
I'm so sorry. This guy believed that he had a devil inside him. Do you guys know how crazy that is? This guy who is a multi-billionaire legitimately believed that he had the devil inside of him.
Actually very interesting because in an interview that Les Wexner did just a few years after acquiring Victoria's Secret in 1985, Les Wexner discussed how he felt that he was possessed by a dark entity, and he shared this with full sincerity too. He was not saying this as a joke. He explained in this article how he never slept well at night due to this dark entity that was possessing him, and this entity was not just something he felt within himself, it was something that had been appearing to him ever since he was a child. He even recalled that when he woke up in the morning, every morning, it felt like this entity was tweaking and pulling at him, in his own words, which just makes this photo of Les Wexner even creepier. As you can see in the reflection, there's something looking back, and it is very creepy. Maybe just his reflection, but it looks like it's flipped. I don't know. Very creepy. After he acquired Victoria's Secret, he very quickly turned the brand into a billion-dollar business, which especially gained a lot of popularity whenever the annual Victoria's Secret shows became a tradition associated with the brand. And by the time Victoria's Secret was really becoming one of Les Wexner's hottest commodities is when Jeffrey would come along. By this point, Les Wexner had created a kind of like a parent company, an umbrella company, over his many retail chains that he owned called the L Brands. And underneath that umbrella fell The Limited, The Limited 2, Bath and Body Works, Lane Bryant, Victoria's Secret, Abercrombie and Fitch, Express, like just to name a few. There were a ton of retail chains that he operated underneath the L brand. So Jeffrey would meet Les Wexner after he worked at the Dalton School, after his time working at Bear Stearns, after he started Intercontinental Assets Group, where he was self-admittedly working as an intelligence operative, and after his time working for Stephen Hoffenberg at Towers Financial Corporation, which we know was exposed as being one of the largest Ponzi schemes to ever operate in American history, a few years after Jeffrey stopped working there, allowing him to evade criminal charges and liability for fraud. After all of that, in 1988, he started J. Epstein and Company, where he would utilize the connections that he had built since the Dalton School to manage assets and tax strategies for wealthy clientele, like extremely wealthy clientele. And one of these wealthy clients was Les Wexner, whom he had met a few years before he actually started J. Epstein and Company. So Jeffrey became Les Wexner's financial advisor for the L brands as a whole. The two of them not only had a very good working relationship, they were also very close friends. There are rumors out there that Les Wexner and Jeffrey had something more with one another. We're just going to kind of not even touch that right now. It's a rumor. Let's talk about the things that we do know. Within a very short time of Jeffrey beginning to work as the L Brands financial advisor, personal financial advisor, Les Wexner in 1991 granted Jeffrey power of attorney over his affairs, meaning Jeffrey had power of attorney.
By the way, Dalton School, the school that Jeffrey Epstein worked at as a math teacher, has produced a lot of people who went on to join the CIA. A lot of the students who graduated from that school went on to join the CIA. Just wanted to let that out there.
Over the entirety of the L brands. So essentially, Jeffrey had the power to hire people, fire people, buy and sell properties in store locations, sign checks, receive loans. He effectively had full control over the L brands in just about every way. And right around the time when Jeffrey was being handed all of this power by Les Wexner is right around the same time period when Jeffrey, whose main girlfriend at this time was Ghislaine, but still dated other women. Right around this time in 1993, Jeffrey was dating Sports Illustrated model Stacey Williams, and she is the woman who was SA'd by Donald Trump while her boyfriend Jeffrey watched amused. So as you can see, with everything we know about Jeffrey and Donald's timeline, you'll know that when Jeffrey became very powerful within the L brands, he was also at this time becoming very, very close friends with Donald Trump. Notably, 1993 was also the same year that Les Wexner would marry his wife, Abigail.
Now, Les Wexner. Becca Day, by the way, brilliant job. Everybody should go follow her. Becca Day is amazing, okay? Genuinely an amazing creator. Literally love all of her work. But Les Wexner. Now, if we want to do a deep dive into Les Wexner, we have to first go to we got into introduction, right? But we have to first go into this guy. Does anyone know who this guy is? Anastasio Somoza Garcia. Does anyone know who this guy is? No. I told you guys today, the rabbit hole that I went down literally hurt my brain, okay? Hurt my little brain. My literal brain. This man was the president of Nicaragua. Yes, Nicaragua is involved, okay? This man was the president of Nicaragua. He seized power in 1936 after the U.S. Marines withdrew from Nicaragua. Now, the American government actively liked this guy, right? they thought that he was a reliable anti-communist ally. They provided him with military aid, with economic assistance, and with diplomatic recognition, even though he was an authoritarian, right? He was very corrupt. He was an authoritarian. And yet President Franklin Roosevelt literally said, I'm quoting Roosevelt, Somoza may be a son of a bitch, but he is our son of a bitch, okay? So the American government was very well aware that this man was an evil dude. Like, he was really bad. He was a horrible dictator. And yet they supported him because he was anti-communism, okay? Funded everything. Now, you might ask yourself, why the hell were the U.S. Marines in Nicaragua in the first place, right? And that is because the U.S. Marines occupied Nicaragua from 1912 until 1933, okay? And they did that primarily to protect American economic interest, to enforce political stability in favor of America, and to prevent any rival powers like Russia, like the Soviet Union, from gaining influence in the region. So to protect American corporation interests, the American government decided to also support Somoza Garcia, right? So a core motive, right, of supporting it is because they wanted to combat Japanese, German, and Soviet Union influence. So this guy was their puppet, okay? Long story short, right? After he was assassinated, his sons Luis Somoza and Anastasio Somoza also became presidents, basically, right? So basically, he was a dictator. It passed on to his children instead of people getting elected, right? And so this included backing during World War II because he was anti-Castro, Fidel Castro, right, of Cuba in the 1950s and 60s. Now, under President Jimmy Carter, his support kind of decreased, right? Because his support criticized Somoza of his human rights abuses because this man was evil. He was unaliving Nicaraguans, his own people. He was detaining them. He was disappearing them. He was evil. Him and his sons were evil, right? The Somoza family, right? And so because of the human rights abuses, there was a lot of aid that was cut amid growing unrest, which then paved the way for the Sandanista Revolution. Now, all of you guys might think, what does Epstein have to do with this? Just bear with me, okay? Bear with me. Trust me. I'll bring it back, okay? I'll bring it back to Epstein because he does have something to do with this, okay? So the Nicaraguan Sandanistas, who were known as the Sandinista National Liberation Front, were a revolutionary socialist organization that overthrew the Somoza family dictatorship in 1979, okay? And they then governed Nicaragua until 1990. They were basically this movement that was created in 1961 by these university students and activists, right? Like Carlos Fonseca, Silvio Mayorga, and Tomas Borges, sorry. Pardon my pronunciation, right? They were the intellectual foundings of the Sandinista revolution, right? And after they toppled him, by the way, of course America wasn't happy. Because what the hell? Why do they have a socialist movement now leading Nicaragua when prior to that they had an anti-communist leader who was leading it, right? So then that includes the Contras, right? So who were the Contras? The Nicaraguan Contras were these right-wing counter-revolutionary rebels who were actively fighting a guerrilla war against the leftist Sandinista movement, right? From 1979 up until 1990, the Contras were working against the Sandinistas. Now, can somebody give me a guess as to who supported the Contras? Right? So the Contras emerged because they did not like the fact that Somoza family dictatorship was toppled. Ding, 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 ding. America supported them. Why did America support them? Because they were right-wing, they were anti-leftism, and they also positioned the Contras as an anti-communist force within the Cold War era, especially, right? So they were formed from ex-National Guardsmen who were more loyal to Somoza. They were disillusioned peasants, right? There were some indigenous groups as well. There were anti-Sandinista civilians, basically. They lacked some ideological unity, but one thing that they shared together was their opposition against the Sandinista group, right? So what did President Reagan start to do? President Reagan decided to approve arms sales, but he couldn't approve arms sales directly to Nicaragua, okay? Because they were found selling coke, as in like white substance. So what they were doing was they were selling a lot of white substances in exchange for the weapons, okay? So what did President Reagan do? He started selling them weapons through Iran, right? So that's when Oliver North comes in, right? Who was an aide who orchestrated these arms deals, markups, contra funding. He was shredding documents to cover tracks, right? Then you had John Poindexter as well, who was a national security advisor who was authorizing Oliver North's plans, and he was deleting key presidential findings, right? And then you had Robert McFarlane, who initially was the head of the national security, the national security advisor head, who pursued the Iran talks, and he resigned when people found out that they were being funded by America, right? By Reagan. And Reagan knew that he wasn't trying. Trust me, I will bring it back, Amy. I will bring it back. Trust me. Okay? Long story short, this is what it looked like, right? I'll give you a visual. This is what it looked like. Okay? So the US, the CIA, right, would sell weapons to Israel. Israel would broker those arms shipments to Iran for US dollars. Iran was the political enemy, quote unquote, of America, but Iran was purchasing US arms at high prices through Israel, which, by the way, Israel is another usual suspect. I just wanted to say that. Because Israel and Iran are technically political enemies, but they were still selling it they were still selling it, right? Okay? And then the CIA would then take the money and the new equipment and secretly fund the Contras. This was the Iran-Contra affair, right? This was the Iran-Contra affair. It's like a little circle, right? So this thing continued the whole time, even though Ronald Reagan knew that this wasn't supposed to happen. Like this was, he wasn't supposed to be doing this, right? So basically, Iran would buy arms amid its Iraq war. And then Israel would ship the weapons as an intermediary. And then Central America would then, the US-backed rebels, the Contras, who were terrorists, by the way, right? They were in Honduras and Costa Rica, and they would then receive these arms and fight the Nicaraguan Sandinistas, and then they would give America coke. Q, right? Now, the reason as to why America was doing this, by the way, is because they said, quote unquote, they were trying to save American hostages that were kidnapped in Lebanon by a group called Hezbollah. Now, those American hostages, right, were kidnapped because Israel invaded Lebanon, right? So Israel invades Lebanon. So let's see the timeline, right? 1979, the Iranian Revolution happens. U.S. embassy hostages are taken hostage. The crisis ends in 1981, Ronald Reagan is inaugurated. The Sandinistas are in power. The CIA starts aiding the Contras. 1982, Israel decides to invade Lebanon under the guise of like intervening in the civil war and fighting the Palestinians who are in Lebanon, who were ethnically cleansed there, right? And then Lebanese people, as a response to Israel invading them, decides to take American hostages, right? And then America, to take back or to free those American, it's not off topic, by the way, to free those American hostages, decides to sell weapons to Iran. And those weapons land in Hezbollah's hands, right? And then in mid-1985, that's when this arms to Iran for hostages is kind of proposed, right? Long story short, by 1986, everybody finds out, holy shit, Ronald Reagan is funding Iran, he's funding Hezbollah, and also he's funding the Contras in Nicaragua. And what else happened in the 1980s, by the way? What else happened in the 1980s under Ronald Reagan? What else happened in the 1980s under Ronald Reagan? The war on drugs, the C-Rack epidemic. Now, where did the C-Rack come from? The CIA was literally, allegedly, getting coke from the Contras and then disseminating them in black neighborhoods. That cue the war on drugs, right? Cue the war on DRUGs, right? Because then the coke was trickling down into a lot of neighborhoods, specifically LA gangs. The LA gangs, they thought coke would be too expensive for your average person. So then they decided to turn the coke into C-Rack to make it a bit cheaper, right? And then the C-Rack was being bought by predominantly low-income areas, which then amplified U.S. urban violence. This is why I'm telling you all of this is connected, right? If you are a U.S. citizen, whatever the American government does abroad literally comes back to harm its citizens. You know? Right? So, how was the CIA doing this, by the way? They were doing this using the Southern Air Transport. Right? So the Southern Air Transport, by the way, was a Miami-based cargo airline that was founded in 1947, right? And it became very infamous because it was being used by the CIA. The CIA purchased it in 1960, and they actively were airlifting weapons, arms, important things to the rest of the world, to Vietnam, to Nicaragua, to all over the world, right? And then once they were found using this, it gets bought by a man called James H. Bastian, who is a Washington aviation attorney, and he buys it, but it still continues being used by the CIA. Now, the CIA uses the Southern Air Transport, okay, to send weapons to Iran. That's what it uses. It uses the Southern Air Transport. Now, what does this have to do with Epstein and Wexner? Right? What does it have to do with Epstein and Wexner? Why are we talking about the Iran-Contra affair? Why are we talking about like Iran and Nicaragua and the Sandinistas and the Iraq epidemic? What does this have to do with anything? Well, after Ronald Reagan got caught selling weapons to Iran, and after his administration got in a lot of shit with the Iran-Contra affair, what were they going to do with the planes? And then Q comes in, Epstein. Epstein comes in to save the day and do cleanup work for the American government. So Epstein at that point, right, in 1987, Epstein had become Wexner's financial advisor, his power attorney, right? And then when the Iran-Contra affair happened with the whole Iraq epidemic and all of those different things happened, Epstein facilitated the Southern Air Transport's move to Ohio to Wexner's base. So then he repurposed the planes that were used for weapons transfer to then be used for Victoria's Secret's transfers. By the way, that is how they repurposed the planes, clean up the little mess, by the way, that the American government and the CIA did, right? So what happens? He relocates the headquarters from Miami to Columbus, Ohio, which is Wexner's base. And then they start hauling apparel from Asia for his retail empire. And investigators identified Epstein to be Wexner's logistics man. And he was the key contact soliciting the Southern Air Transport. Right? And then in 98, they filed bankruptcy in Columbus exactly 1 week before the CIA report details the Iran-Contra allegations. And then the Ohio probe drops amid reported governor pressure. And the CIA gets away with it scot-free. The American government gets away with it scot-free because Epstein comes in alongside Wexner to save the day. How powerful of a man is he to be able to do that? And this is precisely why I'm telling you guys, right? This is precisely why I'm telling you guys that this is much, much deeper. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This is the tip of the iceberg. Now, I told you guys Princess Diana is involved in this, and Saudi Arabia. Who was the arms dealer in Saudi Arabia who was selling the weapons there? Now, the Saudi arms dealer who was selling the weapons was this man, Adnan Khashoggi. You might hear his name and you might think Khashoggi, that sounds like a similar name. Yeah, it is. You wanna know why it's similar? Because Adnan Khashoggi is the uncle of Jamal Khashoggi. Yeah. Jamal Khashoggi's uncle was involved in the Iran-Contra affair. Do you guys see how it's all so connected? And I have another mind map for you guys, okay? Hold on. Where is it? Because now you guys are like, wait. What does this have to do with Princess Diana? So Princess Diana, before she was dying, right? After her divorce with Charles, she was dating Dodi Fayed. Okay? She was dating Dodi Fayed. That was her partner. She was reported to be pregnant with his child, and they both were found dead in the car crash, right? They both died. Now, Dodi Fayed's father is Mohammed Al Fayed, the Egyptian multi-billionaire, millionaire, right? Very rich man. Now, does anybody know who his wife is, though? Mohammed Al Fayed's wife is Samira Khashoggi, who is the aunt of Jamal Khashoggi, who is Adnan Khashoggi's sister. Now, imagine how interlinked that is. Imagine how interlinked that is. Look at this. Adnan Khashoggi, he was the middleman selling the weapons in the Iran-Contra affair. His sister, Samira Khashoggi, marries Mohammed Fayed, who then is the father of Dodi Fayed, who dates Princess Diana, who's her boyfriend. Jamal Khashoggi, he gets killed by Mohammed bin Salman. And then Jamal Khashoggi's grandfather is the personal doctor of the King of Saudi Arabia, King Abdulaziz Al Saud, who is the Saud patriarch. Right? How is this like, do you guys understand how I was shocked? And the crazy thing is that King Abdulaziz's grandson, Mohammed bin Salman, kills Jamal Khashoggi, allegedly. Mohammed bin Salman kills Jamal Khashoggi once he gets in power. Now you guys understand why I said Aziza giving a part of the Kaaba, right? Aziza, who was a part of the Kaaba, gave a part of the Kaaba to Jeffrey Epstein as an initiation for Mohammed bin Salman. This is all alleged, by the way. This is all alleged. I am very happy, okay? Something happens to me, y'all know what's up. I'm very happy. But anyways, Aziza, the woman who gave Jeffrey Epstein a piece of the cloth over the Kaaba, the kiswa, that was an initiation, because she decided to give him that in March of 2017. And in June of 2017, this man coups the whole Saudi government and topples the Saudi crown prince and even detains his own mother and gets into power. Is that a coincidence? Is it a coincidence that 3 months or a couple of months after Epstein gets a piece of the cloth over the Kaaba, that this man does a coup in Saudi Arabia and immediately gets accepted by the West? Also, fun fact, Mohammed bin Salman is Jared Kushner's friend. Mohammed bin Salman is Jared Kushner's friend. I don't think it's a coincidence. I don't think it's a coincidence that this man, who's Jared Kushner's friend, does a coup topples his whole family, detains like hundreds of his family, and gets accepted by Western countries. They just do nothing. And then he proceeds to kill Jamal Khashoggi, whose uncle was a part of the Contra affairs. Blew my mind. It literally blew my mind. Right? Mind blown. Absolutely mind blown. Right? And another thing that Wexner did, by the way, right? Hold on. This is also a trust the process. Trust the process, okay? Trust the process. Let's go to El Airlines. El Al Airlines, right? El Al Airlines is Israel's national flag carrier airline. Okay? It's the next trust the process. Trust me. It has something to do with it. Okay? So the El Al is Israel's national flag carrier airline. It was founded in 1948, November 15, 1948. The El Al is supposed to mean to the skies in Hebrew, right? So this was incorporated with the government backing, Jewish agency funds, and it began operating in different countries, right? Now, the person who moved all the way to New York, I think, was it New York, if I'm not mistaken? Hold on. So the man who relocated to the U.S., okay, his name is Yehuda Koppel. Okay? Yehuda Koppel is his name. Remember that name. Okay? Yehuda Koppel. Now, Yehuda Koppel was a part of the Haganah. Right? So the Haganah, by the way, were a militia that existed. It was like a terrorist militia, right? They were a part of different other militias that basically ethnically cleansed Palestinians and established Israel, right? So there was the Haganah, the Irgun, the Lehi, and the Palmach, right? Now, they actively were warring against the British and also against the Palestinians because they wanted to establish the state of Israel. They were considered a tea organization by the British government, right? Because they were doing a lot of tea activities, unaliving innocent people and all that stuff, right? So why am I bringing up the Haganah? Yehuda Koppel was a former Haganah member, okay? He was a veteran from the war. And after the Nakba, he relocated to the U.S. to establish the El Al Airlines New York presence. Okay? You know what happened to the Haganah, by the way? Do you know what happened to the Haganah? They became the IDF. They, alongside all the other militias, became the IDF. So they still exist today. Okay? Yeah, they still exist today. So why am I even bringing up Yehuda Koppel, right? Yehuda Koppel himself was a Haganah leader during the founding years of Israel. He played an important role within the Haganah. He was a part of the underground Jewish paramilitary that became the core of the IDF, right? And he served as a commander in its intelligence arm and later on started working at El Al Airlines. Now, El Al Airlines, by the way, has been accused of being a front airline for Israeli intelligence. Right? It has been used as a front airlines for Israeli intelligence. Okay? Secret cables obtained confirm that South Africa's spy agencies concurred with allegations that Israel uses its flag carrier El Al Airlines as cover for its intelligence agencies. Right? Now, why am I even bringing this up? Who the hell is Yehuda Koppel? Right? Who the hell is Yehuda Koppel? So let's look at Yehuda Koppel, right? This is his paid notice deaths, right? Who is this man? Why am I even bringing him up, right? Yehuda Koppel, September 25th, 2006 in New York. Mr. Koppel, 89, was born in Kalisz, Poland, to Chaim and Sarah Koppel. He left Poland at the age of 16 and resettled in Palestine. Mr. Koppel joined the British Army and was a member of the Jewish Brigade. He fought in World War II in Europe and retired from the British Army with the rank of Major. Mr. Koppel played an important role in the founding of the State of Israel as a leader in the Haganah. He moved to New York, where he opened the first American office of El Al, Israel's national airline, and where he lived until his death. Mr. Koppel was an avid reader of history and the classics, fluent in multiple yada yada yada. His love of family gave great meaning and joy to his life. He is survived by his wife, Zipporah Goldman Koppel, sons Dan Koppel and Gil Koppel, daughter Abigail Koppel Wexner, and son-in-law Leslie H. Wexner. Yeah, he is Les Wexner's father-in-law. Isn't that crazy? Les Wexner's father-in-law decided to, and Les Wexner was the employer, by the way, of Jeffrey Epstein, right? He was the employer of Jeffrey Epstein. By the way, you guys want to know who else was the client of Jeffrey Epstein? You want to know who else was the client of Jeffrey Epstein? Adnan Khashoggi was Jeffrey Epstein's client. Ding, 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 ding. You see how it all connects? Adnan Khashoggi was also Jeffrey Epstein's client. Isn't that crazy how it's all connected? Jeffrey Epstein cleaned up the American government's mistake, quote-unquote mistake and mess, when it came to the Iran-Contra affair. And one of his clients was Adnan Khashoggi, and then Les Wexner's father-in-law created the first office, American office, for the Israeli airline, which was an intelligence front. Isn't it crazy how interconnected all these people were? By the way, Abigail Wexner, Les Wexner's wife, she runs a research institute for children. For children. The Research Institute at Nationwide Children's has been renamed in honor of Abigail Wexner, whose ongoing passionate advocacy has ushered in a period of unprecedented transformation at the hospital. Mrs. Wexner began serving on Nationwide Children's Board in 19 1993 and acted as board chair for 7 years from 2005 to 2012. During her tenure as chair, Ms. Wexner led the hospital through the largest expansion in its 127-year history, including completion of a 12-story hospital building and a third research building with more than $1.2 billion in regional economic impact. I don't think it's a coincidence. I don't think it's a coincidence that all of these people, or a lot of these people, actively try to work together with children, by the way. They try to work together with children because that is how they can recruit children. They try to get as close as possible to vulnerable kids. Right? And not only that, by the way, hold on. Not only that, by the way, remember Limited? That company that belonged to Wexner? So Limited 2 brand had a subsection called Justice that marketed specifically to children, by the way. And in 2001, that was transferred to Jeffrey Epstein. Yes, Wexner decided to transfer Justice to Epstein in 2001. Why was he transferring a kid's brand to Epstein, a sex offender, in 2001? As I mentioned again, this is why I am doing the mind map, by the way. This is precisely why I'm choosing to do the mind map. I'm making it from scratch. The reason why I'm making the mind map from scratch is to show you guys how deeply, deeply interconnected this whole web of exploitation is. Can we buy it? No, the mind map is for free. After I'm done, I'm going to upload it to my Linktree. It's not to be bought. After I'm done with the mind map, I'm going to upload it to my Linktree. So you guys can have access to it. So you can see how interlinked this whole network is, and how Epstein could not have done it on his own. He could not have done it on his own. How much will you charge? I just said it's for free. What are you talking about? The mind map is for free. Right? Yeah. It's crazy, by the way. Everything is insane, how interconnected it is. Another thing that I wanted to show y'all was there was a victim report that I read. Hold on, where was it? There was a victim report that I read that I did want to show you guys. That was also interconnected to these people, right? It's crazy how connected these people are. I just wanted to tell you that, how connected this whole network is, right? Les Wexner is connected. He's still alive. Les Wexner tried to, a couple of years ago, say that he was bamboozled and tricked by Epstein. Because Les Wexner was the one who literally gave Epstein a bulk of his money. Without Les Wexner, Epstein could not have done what he did. Right? And this man, Les Wexner, literally said that he was bamboozled by Epstein. That he didn't know that Epstein was stealing his money. He wasn't actually sure. And Epstein actually stole from him, and he kind of basically was complete fraud, and he's completely innocent, which I don't buy. This man actively said he felt like he had a demon inside of him and he was possessed. Please. I don't buy that shit, right? So, what does this say, right? Because this is the reason as to why we're doing this, right? We're doing this because of these types of victims who were trafficked, right? So this is on November the 2nd, 2020 at 5:58 Eastern Time, date of birth 1988, email address redacted, international cellular telephone number redacted. The person says, I have suffered massive human trafficking. It started as a young child. I was sold to Russia. I've been molested by lawyers, judges, royalties, politicians, and presidents, policemen, and others. I was sold to Jeffrey Epstein several times. My family and relatives received money for me. I have been molested and raped several years. They made corn of me. They made me a sex slave in every nation. They tried to unalive my brain. The royalties in Norway, Gunhild Stordalen, Peter Stordalen, Kjell Inge Røkke, Jens Stoltenberg, Jonas Gahr Støre, Stian, and others tried to put me into a coma, and they wanted to make me disabled. I was a billionaire and people stole this fortune and tried to disqualify me. There is no help to get. I need help. I've been involved with Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton. Additional info. I once gave birth to a child and I woke up from coma because of the birth. Some of the traffickers are relatives and family, by the way. Which, birth is something that is so common. There are so many pregnant people in the files. So many pregnant people. I think it's a typo, by the way. I don't think she was a billionaire. I think it's a typo, probably. I don't think she's a billionaire because in the beginning she talks about being sold. Right? This is the file number here at the end. Right here. If you can see it, right? So, how was Epstein even able to get away with all of this? That is something that really, really surprises me, right? How Epstein is able to even get away with everything that he's doing, right? Right? It's just very, very shocking. And Les Wexner, this is precisely why I'm talking about Les Wexner a lot, right? Because I wanted to focus on Les Wexner, who was basically the backbone of Epstein, right? He was Epstein's backbone. He was the man who gave him a huge bulk of his money. He is the one who employed him. He was his employer. Right? So, Les Wexner, by the way, created a group, right? The group is called the Mega Group that he created, right? So he created this group called the Mega Group. It was a study group. It was an informal network of wealthy Jewish American philanthropists formed in 1991. By the way, I just want to say this. Me saying this, okay, does not mean that you have to target Jewish people because of this. Me saying this does not warrant any type of anti-Semitism within my chat. Mods, if you see that happening, please get rid of that as well, right? This is again about the ultra rich. The ultra rich, regardless of what religion they are, regardless of what country they come from, we have seen how they have literally been evil because they live within a world where they can get away with whatever they do. Okay? So when I'm talking about this, by the way, I'm actively hyper-focusing on just rich people generally. Epstein was this evil not because he was Jewish, but because he was a rich white man who was a freaking sicko, basically, okay? This guy was actively a P3DO. So just wanted to state that. There's no point in targeting any marginalized community or marginalized group or generalizing people and blaming them. Okay? So anyways, the Mega Group, by the way, also called the study group, was an informal network of wealthy Jewish American philanthropists formed in 1991 to discuss Jewish continuity education and pro-Israel causes through private biannual meetings. Now, one of the founding members was Leslie Wexner. Now, we already know Leslie Wexner is not your average man, right? This man is married to the daughter of a Haganah former Haganah commander, a man who works at a front company for Mossad. And this Wexner guy himself was so deeply connected, by the way. He was organizing events in 1998. Hold on, I had it here somewhere. He was organizing events in 1998. Hold on, where is it? Give me a second. Here we go. He was literally organizing events in 1998, right? Here they are. The Wexner Heritage Foundation Weekend Retreat at the Palm Hotel, West Palm Beach, Florida, February 19 to 21st, 1988. Now, why am I showing you this? Why am I showing you this? Like, what's so special about it? I don't know. It was just a weekend, right? Yes, he had a heritage foundation too, right? I'm showing you this because Benjamin Netanyahu was a special guest there in 98 when he was an ambassador. Wexner Heritage Foundation, that's something else, by the way. So this man was clearly connected to a lot of politicians, right? So he was a very powerful man, Les Wexner. He wasn't only rich, he was very powerful, right? So in 1988, exactly. So the founding members were Les Wexner, also Charles Bronfman, this man right here, who's a Canadian-American businessman and philanthropist, okay? He was the co-founder, and Leslie Wexner, both of them co-founded it. Now, Bronfman might seem like a very, very similar name, right? Bronfman, that seems like a very similar family. Yeah, that's because he is the father of Edgar Bronfman Jr., who was the former CEO of Warner Music Group. Yeah. He was the former CEO of Warner Music Group. Right? That is the son of Charles Bronfman, who is a co-founder of the Mega Group. He co-founded it with Les Wexner. Right? So, this was a loosely organized club for seminars on Judaism, philanthropy. Bronfman and Wexner, both of them led discussions where they emphasized their identity amid assimilation concerns, right? So who else was a member of that, right? So it was Charles Bronfman, Les Wexner. We had Edgar Bronfman, who is his son, was also a member of this group, right? Who was the former head of Warner Music Group. We also had Michael Steinhardt, who is a member, who was an American billionaire, hedge fund manager, philanthropist. It's very interesting that the term philanthropist keeps coming up, right? And former antiquities collector, right? He was also a part of the group, the Mega Group, right? He was a member of the Mega Group, right? Lawrence Tisch was also a member, right? He was an American billionaire, businessman, and investor. He was a CEO of CBS television network. Wow! Isn't that crazy? The head of CBS. Yeah. And you know what's also crazy? His granddaughter is the police commissioner of New York. Yeah. His granddaughter is the police commissioner in New York today. Or she has served as the 48th New York City police commissioner. That's his granddaughter, right? And then by the way, Lawrence Tisch owns a lot of hotels, insurance companies, all these different things, right? And then another person who was a member is Leonard Abramson, who is another philanthropist and the founder and former CEO of U.S. Healthcare. Crazy how connected all of them are. U.S. Healthcare. Okay? Yeah. And then, of course, Leslie Wexner was another member. He was a co-founder. But also, Steven Spielberg was also a member of this group, the Mega Group, who I'm pretty sure everybody knows who Steven Spielberg is, but I'll still read it out. Steven Spielberg is an American filmmaker, a major figure of the new Hollywood era, and pioneer of the modern blockbuster. He has made films like Schindler's List, Jaws, E.T., Jurassic Park, amongst other things. And he was a member of this Mega Group too. Now members, they controlled major firms tied to retail, liquor, finance, and media. Wexner controlled L Brands, the Bronfmans controlled Seagram Co. for vodka and whiskey. Steinhardt controlled Steinhardt Partners hedge fund. Abramson controlled U.S. healthcare. Tisch controlled Lowe's, which was CNA Financial and CNA Insurance. Now, do y'all know what came out of this, by the way? Out of this group? One of the things that came out of this group was birthright. Oh, hold on. Wrong birthright. This one. Birthright, Taglit, which is the free 10-day heritage trip to Israel. So birthright is something that is offered to Jewish North Americans especially, where you are offered, if you're Jewish, you can just sign up and you get a free 10-day trip to Israel. And it's basically there to kind of convince young Jewish people to, after they're done, do aliyah, which means move to Israel, right? To promote Zionism and to promote Israel as a country so that more people can move there. Now, the free Israeli trips was created by Charles Bronfman. Again, his name comes up. And Michael Steinhardt. They both created it in 1999, right? So not only that, they also created Hillel International Renewal, which was inspired by UJA Federation initiatives. They created a lot of partnerships as well, right? Funded day schools. So basically, they were using the Mega Group, which started off initially as this study group that was just like a coalition group where people could hang out together and just talk about their identity. It quickly turned into becoming a group where they could lobby basically for Israel, so they could lobby for Israel basically, and actively push to lobby politicians, right? So Leslie Wexner had his Wexner Foundation. He had his Wexner Israel Fellowship within Harvard Kennedy School. Charles Bronfman, co-founder of Birthright Israel, and Andrea and Charles Bronfman Philanthropies. Michael Steinhardt was also the co-founder of Birthright. He had the Steinhardt Foundation for Jewish Life and Hillel Jewish Education Projects. And then all these other people who were also members of MEGA had all these different things. Tisch College, Jewish Federations, United Jewish Appeal, Jewish Agency for Israel, Ronald S. Lauder. Does that name sound familiar, by the way? Ronald S. Lauder. Who was Ronald S. Lauder's mother? Ding, 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 ding. Estee Lauder. Exactly. Yeah. Estee Lauder is his mother. Isn't that insane? Isn't that insane? Do y'all see now why I hate billionaires? Every time I say I hate billionaires, do y'all see why I don't like billionaires? Because they're all somehow just connected. All of them. They're all somehow connected to one another. They've just secured themselves all these riches to just be able to do whatever they want to do. Right? Yeah. It's crazy. They've just secured themselves all this money to do whatever they want to do. This is why Les Wexner is actually very, very terrifying. I'm not gonna lie. By the way, remember that John Luke guy? The guy who I told you right here? Where is he? In the mind map. Let's go back to the mind map. This guy right here, Brunel, who was Epstein's main recruiter, right? Epstein's main recruiter. Y'all know what happened to him? What could have happened to him, right? Yeah, he was found dead in his prison cell. He, quote unquote, alleged right? So it's, they take them out. Exactly. Either they take them out or they get them to hide. Also, by the way, hold on. Epstein was connected to New Albany, by the way. What does it say? The development of New Albany, an affluent community further bolstered by a looming Intel semiconductor plant, can trace its evolution to the richest man in Ohio. But documents from years ago show its rise wasn't without influence from a dark presence. The little farming community with under 500 people before the 1980s is scarcely recognizable in 2023 thanks to a project by billionaire Leslie Wexner, the founder of L Brands and mogul with brands like Bath & Body Works, Abercrombie & Fitch, and Victoria's Secret. He joined forces with developer Jack Kessler as the 1990s approach to form the New Albany Company and their vision for Shangri-La for the wealthy in the village, according to the firm's website. The old saying that New Albany used to be a one-stop sign town and then a billionaire moved to town and everything changed. It's kind of true, right? New Albany Mayor Sloan Spalding said in 2022 NBC4 interview. Mr. Wexner came in and started purchasing land for what was going to be his estate and then started thinking bigger. New Albany Co. would eventually go on to manage the New Albany International Business Park, a 6,000-acre plot with the headquarters of Abercrombie & Fitch as a key tenant. It was New Albany's largest employer as of 2022, and the park as a whole helped usher in unprecedented growth for the city. This July 25th, 2013 file image provided by the Florida Department, yada yada yada, shows financier Jeffrey Epstein. The U.S. Virgin Islands has reached a settlement announced on Wednesday, November 30th, 2022 of more than $105 million in sex trafficking case against the estate of financier Jeffrey Epstein. As Kessler and Wexner began their plans for New Albany in the mid-1980s, however, Wexner also met and subsequently hired his new personal financial manager, Jeffrey Epstein, now known in death as a sex trafficker who socialized with some of the world's most powerful figures. Epstein was named Wexner's power of attorney in 1991, giving him the ability to make hires, sign checks, and buy and sell properties on the billionaire's behalf. This legal relationship between the pair continued until 2007, around the same time that Wexner said he severed ties with Epstein, according to the documents from the Franklin County recorder. So it's interesting that he only severed ties after Epstein started going to court. Throughout the 1990s, as he took part in New Albany Co's project, Epstein owned at least 2 properties in the town. One home in the 7500 block of King George Drive was an apparent gift from the billionaire to his financial manager. Documents from the Franklin County Recorder showed Epstein received the property in a trust in 1990. NBC4 also obtained Franklin County auditor records, which showed he later bought the house for $364,636 and resigned from the trust in 1995. Leslie's wife, Abigail Wexner, took Epstein's place as trustee, but auditor records also showed Epstein sold the home to the billionaire's wife for $0 in 2007. The home departed the Wexner portfolio in 2011 when another buyer acquired it for $365,250. Right? It's a money laundering scheme, yeah. It's all about money laundering. It's all about trafficking. It's all about getting richer while abusing girls. That's what it's all about, you know? But I'm showing you guys more the business aspect of it, the political aspect of it, the legal aspect of it, to show you guys how well connected all of these people were, by the way. How well connected all of these people were. They were so connected. They're able to do all of this and get away with it. Right? There was something else. By the way, John Luke, I think I might do a live about him too, because this guy was really creepy. Look what he says here. Hold on. So what does it say here? All the best in New Year, for more fun in New Year, and for little Jeffrey soon to come. Thank you for being such a great friend. Going to sleep, still in Bangkok, Boris. Then Jeffrey decides to forward that to John Luke. From Jeffrey, no. Oh, John Luke then says, wait a minute, am I missing something? Then Jeffrey tells him, no, just wanted you to that Iris was also in Bangkok. I forgot about the Boris wish. So then John Luke tells him, saved for 2012, but I can start to look for baby clothes if the wish turns into reality. Or would you stick with RL baby around the corner? Forget that you're planning everything. I'll send you a picture of the Burmese girl. Very pretty. She's a star singer in Myanmar. I'll bring her to US. Obama visits Myanmar and Chan Chan comes to America. I think that I have something new and fresh news to promote. They were obsessed with baby clothing, by the way. Just wanted to say that. They were really, really obsessed with baby clothing. Right? Are very obsessed with baby clothing, baby blankets, all of the kind. And John Luke was a creep, by the way. This man had raped a lot of babies. Not babies, but children as well, right? What does this say here? A lot of stuff, by the way. This is also very interesting. Jeffrey Epstein hoped to seed human race with his DNA. Crazy title. Jeffrey E. Epstein, the wealthy financier, who is accused of sex trafficking. We do have the evidence, though, because some of the girls wrote that in their journals. Mr. Epstein's vision reflected his long-standing fascination with what has become known as transhumanism, the science of improving the human population through technologies like genetic engineering and artificial intelligence. Critics have likened transhumanism to a modern-day version of eugenics, the discredited field of improving the human race through controlled breeding. Mr. Epstein, who was charged in July with the sexual trafficking of girls as young as 14, was a serial illusionist. He lied about the identities of his clients, his wealth, his financial prowess, his personal achievements, but he managed to use connections and charisma to cultivate valuable relationships with business and political leaders. Interviews with more than a dozen of his acquaintances, as well as public documents, show that he used the same tactics to insinuate himself into an elite scientific community, thus allowing him to pursue his interests in eugenics and other fringe fields like cryonics. Lawyers for Mr. Epstein, who has pleaded not guilty to the sex trafficking charges, did not respond to requests for comment. Mr. Epstein attracted a glittering array of prominent scientists. They included the Nobel Prize-winning physicist Murray Gell-Mann, who discovered the quark, the theoretical physicist and best-selling author Stephen Hawking. Yes, Stephen Hawking is also in the files, by the way. The paleontologist and evolutionary biologist Stephen Jay Gould, Oliver Sacks, the neurologist and best-selling author, George M. Church, a molecular engineer who has worked to identify genes that could be altered to create superior humans, and MIT theoretical physicist Frank Wilczek, a Nobel laureate. The lure for some of the scientists was Mr. Epstein's money. He dangled financing for their pet projects. Some of the scientists said that the prospect of financing blinded them to the seriousness of his sexual transgressions and even led them to give credence to some of Mr. Epstein's half-baked scientific musings. Scientists gathered at dinner parties at Mr. Epstein's Manhattan mansion, where Dom Perignon and expensive wines flowed freely, even though Mr. Epstein did not drink. He hosted a buffet lunches at Harvard's program for evolutionary dynamics, which he had helped start with $6.5 million donation. Others flew to conferences sponsored by Epstein in the United States, Virgin Islands, and were... oh my God. We know what happens on the islands. We know what happens on the islands, so when they're going there to these islands, right? Others flew to conferences sponsored by Epstein, Virgin Islands, and were feted on his private island there. Once the scientists, including Mr. Hawking, crowded on board a submarine that Mr. Epstein had chartered. The Harvard cognitive psychologist Steven Pinker said he was invited by colleagues, including Martin Novak, a Harvard professor of mathematics and biology, and the theoretical physicist Lawrence Krauss, to salons and coffee clatches at which Mr. Epstein would hold court. Steven Pinker, by the way, is a psychologist who we saw in that airplane, in some of the photos, in the airplane photos. And Martin Novak, there are multiple emails of him corresponding with Epstein's assistants. While some of Mr. Pinker's peers hailed Mr. Epstein as brilliant, Mr. Pinker described him as an intellectual imposter. He would abruptly change the subject ADD style, dismiss an observation with an adolescent wisecrack, Mr. Pinker said. Another scientist cultivated by Mr. Epstein, Jaron Lanier, a prolific author who is a founding father of virtual reality. Oh, wow! Now VR is involved. Oh, my lord. Said that Mr. Epstein's ideas did not amount to science and that they did not lend themselves to rigorous proof. Mr. Lanier said Mr. Epstein had once hypothesized that atoms behaved like investors in a marketplace. Mr. Lanier said he had declined any funding from Epstein and that he had met with him only once after Mr. Epstein in 2008 pleaded guilty to charges of soliciting prostitution from a minor. Mr. Epstein was willing to finance research that others viewed as bizarre. He told one scientist that he was bankrolling efforts to identify a mysterious particle that might trigger the feeling that someone is watching you. At one session at Harvard, Mr. Epstein criticized efforts to reduce starvation and provide health care to the poor because doing so increased the risk of overpopulation. Wait, hold on. At one session, Mr. Epstein criticized efforts to reduce starvation and provide health care to the poor because doing so increased the risk of overpopulation. Y'all remember that email where Epstein asked Bill Gates, how could you kill poor people at once? That's what it's reminding me of. Makes sense. Yes, there was an email where Epstein was asking Bill Gates basically how you could unalive poor people at once. Mr. Pinker said he had, by the way, also, keeping people poor means more victims for them, by the way. Keeping people poor meant more victims for them because the kids that come out of poor families that probably go to foster care, get adopted, become homeless, become very desperate. They then end up becoming vulnerable and, becoming a victim. And I think that's precisely why they were also anti-abortion. So, yeah. Mr. Pinker said he had rebutted the argument, citing research showing that high rates of infant mortality simply cause people to have more children. Mr. Epstein seemed annoyed, and a Harvard colleague later told Mr. Pinker that he had been voted off the island and was no longer welcome at Epstein's gatherings. Then there was Mr. Epstein's interest in eugenics. On multiple occasions starting in the early 2000s, Mr. Epstein told scientists and businessmen about his ambitions to use his New Mexico ranch as a base where women would be inseminated with his sperm and would give birth to his babies, according to 2 award-winning scientists and an advisor to large companies and wealthy individuals, all of whom Mr. Epstein told about it. It was not a secret. The advisor, for example, said he was told about the plans not only by Mr. Epstein at a gathering at his Manhattan townhouse, but also by at least one prominent member of the business community. One of the scientists said Mr. Epstein divulged his idea in 2001 at a dinner at the same townhouse. The other recalled Mr. Epstein discussing it with him at a 2006 conference that he hosted in St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands. The idea struck all three as far-fetched and disturbing. There is no indication that it would have been against the law. Once at a dinner at Mr. Epstein's mansion on Manhattan's Upper East Side, Mr. Lanier said he talked to a scientist who told him that Mr. Epstein's goal was to have 20 women at a time impregnated at his 33,000 square foot Zorro Ranch in a tiny town outside Santa Fe. Mr. Lanier said the scientist identified herself as working at NASA, but he did not remember her name. According to Mr. Lanier, the NASA scientist said Mr. Epstein had based his idea for a baby ranch on accounts of repository for the germinal choice, which has to be stocked with the sperm of Nobel laureates who wanted to strengthen the human gene pool. Only one Nobel Prize winner has acknowledged contributing sperm to it. The repository discontinued operations in 1999. Mr. Lanier, the virtual reality creator and author, said he had the impression that Mr. Epstein was using the dinner parties, where some guests were attractive women with impressive academic credentials, to screen candidates to bear Epstein's children. Mr. Epstein didn't hide his interest in tinkering with genes and in perpetuating his own DNA. One adherent of transhumanism said that he and Mr. Epstein discussed the financier's interest in cryonics, an unproven science in which people's bodies are frozen to be brought back to life in the future. Mr. Epstein told this person that he wanted his head and penis to be frozen. What is happening? By the way, this makes so much sense because there were so many emails about girls talking about being pregnant or emailing him, telling him, I'm pregnant, by the way. Right? Mr. Epstein told this person that he wanted his head and penis to be frozen. Southern Trust Company, Mr. Epstein's Virgin Island Incorporated business, disclosed in a local filing that it was engaged in DNA analysis. Calls to Southern Trust, which sponsored a science and math fair. Oh my God. Oh my God. He had a Virgin Island Incorporated business that sponsored science and math fairs for school children. Oh my God. In 2011, a charity established by Mr. Epstein gave $20,000 to the Worldwide Transhumanist Association, which now operates under the name Humanity Plus. We saw that receipt, by the way. The group's website says that its goal is to deeply influence a new generation of thinkers who dare to envision humanity's next steps. Mr. Epstein's foundation, which is now defunct, also gave $100,000 to pay the salary of Ben Goetze, vice chairman of Humanity Plus, according to Mr. Goetzel's resume. I have no desire to talk about Epstein right now, Mr. Goetzel said in an email to the New York Times. The stuff I'm reading about him in the papers is pretty disturbing and goes way beyond what I thought his misdoings and kinks were. Yeesh. Alan M. Dershowitz, a professor emeritus of law at Harvard, recalled that at a lunch Mr. Epstein hosted in Cambridge, he steered the conversation towards the question of how humans could be improved genetically. Mr. Dershowitz said he was appalled given the Nazis' use of eugenics to justify their genocidal effort to purify the Aryan race. Yet the lunches persisted. Why is Dershowitz acting like he's innocent, bro? This guy used to grape children too. Allegedly. Everyone speculated about whether these scientists were more interested in his views or more interested in his money, said Mr. Dershowitz, who was one of Mr. Epstein's defense lawyers in the 2008 case. By the way, Dershowitz was Jared Kushner's teacher as well. So Dershowitz was Jared Kushner's and Josh Kushner's teacher. For 2 decades, Mr. Brockman presided over a series of salons that matched his scientist authors with potential benefactors. The so-called billionaires' dinners apparently became a model for the gathering at Mr. Epstein's East 71st Street townhouse, which included some of the same guests. In 2004, Mr. Brockman hosted a dinner at the Indian Summer Restaurant in Monterey, California, where Mr. Epstein was introduced to scientists, including Seth Lloyd, the MIT physicist. Mr. Lloyd said that he found Mr. Epstein to be charming and to have interesting ideas, although they turned out to be quite vague. All the good-looking women were sitting with the physicist's table. Daniel Dubneau, who was a CBS producer at the time and attended the dinner, was quoted as saying, Mr. Dubneau told the Times that he did not recall the dinner or having said those words. Mr. Brockman was Mr. Gell-Mann's agent, and Mr. Gell-Mann, in the acknowledgement section of his 1995 book, The Quark and the Jaguar, thanked Mr. Epstein for his financial support. However impressive his roster of scientific contacts, Mr. Epstein could not resist embellishing it. He claimed on one of his websites to have had the privilege of sponsoring many prominent scientists, including Mr. Pinker, Mr. Thorne, and the MIT mathematician and geneticist Eric S. Lander. Mr. Pinker said he had never taken any financial or other support from Mr. Epstein. Needless to say, I find Epstein's behavior reprehensible, he said. Mr. Thorne, who recently won a Nobel Prize, said he attended Mr. Epstein's 2006 conference, believing it to be co-sponsored by a reputable research center. Other than that, I have no contact with him, relationship with, affiliation with, or funding with from Epstein, he said. I unequivocally condemn his abhorrent actions involving minors. Lee McGuire, a spokesman for Mr. Lander, said he had no relationship with Mr. Epstein. Mr. Epstein appears to have made up lots of things, Mr. McGuire said, and this seems to be among them. Some of Jeffrey Epstein's don't want... Can I just say, why is it that all the people who somehow get implicated say, we were not involved at all? We had absolutely nothing to do with it. Like Lutnick yesterday, remember? This guy kept claiming that he had nothing to do with it, but then was actually involved. Crazy. I also did want to show something else, actually.
The controversy boiling over the summer after the Attorney General said there was no Epstein client list.
Hold on. I want to show it here.
For a time, the two were also neighbors in New Albany. During today's news conference, Epstein accuser Annie Farmer spoke with reporters. She recalled being just 16 when she was flown to Epstein's ranch in New Mexico, where she said she and her sister were assaulted. Farmer went on to say that many people knew about the abuse committed by Epstein and others. She also says a lot of people funded Epstein's lifestyle and looked the other way.
There are names that are very well known, like that of Les Wexner, who everyone knows supplied an enormous amount of Epstein's, financial wealth and allowed this operation to happen. So it's, I think, confusing to many of us why there have not been more ramifications for him, and he's been seen as a victim when clearly, I believe there's more to it.
Just last week.
Exactly. He has been seen as a victim. By the way, did y'all see the Pam Bondi?
Jeffrey?
This is also something that was really sick, by the way.
Epstein's victims have long said they believe they were being filmed by the sex offender. And this footage from a spy cam style camera inside Epstein's palm...
I'm sorry. He also had a spy cam. But look into Pam Bondi being paid off a couple of years ago not to investigate Trump University fraud cases. So I'm not surprised.
Jeffrey Epstein's victims have long said they believe they were being filmed by the sex offender. And this footage from a spy cam style camera inside Epstein's Palm Beach house appears to show just that. The footage has been obtained for the first time by Channel 4 News. Because the quality is so grainy, during our investigation we analysed it frame by frame, and we've slowed it down here so that you can see what's happening. A man, likely Epstein himself, at one point looks towards the hidden device. Images of what seems to be his accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, as well as what appears to be several women or girls. So how do we know what this is and where it comes from? Epstein's Palm Beach property was raided by law enforcement in 2005, where police filmed this footage. Pause it here. You can see his office in the corner of the ground floor living area. This is the exact same office captured in the spy cam footage. We can match up some features like the stairway pattern in the shelves, the two small bookshelves above a larger middle shelf, a framed painting, behind an oversized lampshade, and an ornamental plate on the top middle shelf. So where is this spy cam in the office? Well, we believe it's here. And in the footage of the 2005 police raid, we can see that there is what looks like a wide clock positioned on a low side table facing the desk. In a 2006 affidavit from Palm Beach detective Joseph Recarey, the man who led investigations into Epstein during the 2000s, he said that there were two covert cameras hidden within clocks, one in the garage and another in the library area. He adds that a computer was located which was believed to contain the images from the cameras, and that all of these images appeared to come from the one positioned behind Epstein's desk. And then in a 2010 deposition, Detective Recarey said that despite the lighting being poor and not being 100%, he thought that it was Mr. Epstein in the videos, adding, "You know, I can say the female did appear to be redacted word. One of the assistants appeared to be redacted word. You know, that kind of thing." Now, one police report states that Epstein bought and installed a hidden clock camera himself. But in this deposition, the police suggest that they themselves may have actually helped Epstein install it following a 2003 burglary at his home.
Wait. Wait. The police? Did I hear that right?
Himself. But in this deposition, the police suggest that they themselves may have actually helped Epstein install it following a 2003 burglary at his home. The newly uncovered spy cam footage, part of millions of documents released in the Epstein files, appears to show a moment of intimate contact at Epstein's desk involving an unidentified woman or girl. That's why we can't play it in full. Epstein's victims repeatedly said they believed they had been filmed. Elsewhere in the footage, a man we believe to be Epstein emerges in a bathrobe. And this is all just from one spy camera in the 2000s. Epstein had a vast, elaborate and secretive surveillance system across his properties. We know from other police reports that Epstein had CCTV installed in Palm Beach, but the computer equipment associated with those cameras was removed before police searched the home. And over a decade after his 2008 conviction, these images from his New York townhouse show cameras inside the property and a room with monitors that were linked to those cameras. That room was...
Oh my god. Do y'all see this? Look at the monitors.
To those cameras. That room was behind a door that read 24-hour video surveillance. Yet this footage from Palm Beach, identified by Channel 4 News, remains the only covert surveillance footage the public has seen so far.
Well, back to our main news now. The US Attorney General Pam Bondi has faced angry scenes in Congress as she was questioned over her handling of the Epstein files and urged to apologise to survivors. Let's go to our US editor, Anushka Estana.
You know, I was sitting in that room.
I want to watch some of the hearing.
quote, if you come for law enforcement, the Trump administration will...
Did you guys know that Joe Nagusa is Eritrean, by the way? So I'm excited to see how he questions her. He's Eritrean American.
Come for you, end quote. I want to show you just a brief video. It's about 30 seconds, and I'll ask you a couple questions about it.
You guys are disgusting, man. Hey, you guys are disgusting. I'm former law enforcement. You're disgusting. You are the Nazi. You are the Gestapo. You can't see it because you're chasing your pension, right? Pension. Your retirement, right? That's what runs your life, your retirement. The sad thing is they're not even going to get their pension because it's going to be worthless. And shame on you. And shame on you. Shame on
Attorney General Bondi, that man works for you now.
Who was that, Congressman?
The man in that video, the one who was in the police-worn body cam footage, the one allegedly yelling, kill him, at police officers on January 6th, his name is Jared Wise.
He does work for us.
He works for you at the Department of Justice.
He does.
This is an individual whom a federal grand jury indicted for 2 felonies and 4 misdemeanors related to his participation in the attack on January 6th. One of those charges was forcibly assaulting, resisting, opposing, impeding, intimidating, and interfering with police with the intent to commit another felony. This is who you choose as the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States of America to hire at the Department of Justice. Someone on video yelling, kill him, at police officers, right?
I believe he was pardoned by President Trump.
Oh, he was pardoned. You're right. You're right. Pardoned by President Trump for his offense. Pardoned for yelling, kill him, at police officers. And yet you expect hardworking police officers across the country to believe that you take law enforcement seriously. You could imagine the reaction of so many folks across the country hearing the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States refuse to even condemn what that individual whom you've now hired did. But in any event, let's talk a little bit about some of the other divisions within the Department of Justice and what's happened over the last year. You're familiar with the Public Integrity section of the DOJ's criminal division. I think it's referred to as PIN. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know which presidential administration under which the PIN was first created?
I can tell you what administration that the weaponization was ended under.
I'll reclaim my time. This wasn't a trick question.
You don't get to
Madam Attorney
reclaim
General.
your time.
Madam Attorney General.
Because I don't like
Mr. Chairman, will you explain to the witness that he does reclaim his time?
Because I don't answer a question to your satisfaction.
Mr. Chairman.
Madam Attorney General, the time belongs to the gentleman from Colorado.
The president under which PIN was created was Gerald Ford. It was created after Watergate. I'm not asking a question, Madam Attorney General. The administration under which it was created was Gerald Ford. When you first started as the Attorney General of the United States, there were 35 people working in that office. There are now 2 people working in that office because you have gutted it. How many people work for the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team in the criminal division today?
Can I answer the question about PIN?
I've asked you a question. How many
You've
people
asked
work?
me a question, but you don't
How
want
many
the answer.
people work
I'm not
for the
gonna answer your
National
questions the way you
Cryptocurrency
want.
Enforcement Team? You won't answer how many
I'll
people?
answer PIN.
You.
PIN will not be
You know what?
weaponized.
You know what?
What's funny about this?
I'll say to the chairman.
What's funny about this?
Chairman, you know what the answer is? And I think I understand
funny
why the
about
Attorney General
this?
does not want to answer the question. Because you eliminated the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team last year. So I understand why you don't want to tell the American people who works there.
Yeah, I
No one
understand
works
why
there
you don't want to
anymore,
talk about
Madam
Mohammed
Attorney
Solomon
General.
in
So,
your district.
In any event,
who murdered people.
Mr. Chairman, will you stop the clock so his time is not wasted by the witness?
I've been very generous with allowing extra time when we have these little disputes.
I understand.
You got the time.
I might as well ask the chairman these questions.
I'd be happy
because
to answer some of your questions.
What's profound, the questions I've
Profound?
asked,
The crime in your
I've
district.
asked, Mr. Chairman, are not trick questions. They're not gotcha questions. They're actually basic questions about how the Department of Justice functions and the unwillingness of this Attorney General to answer them in good faith. When a member of Congress asks, How many people work at the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team and the Attorney General refuses to answer it? It is not eliminated the team. Why? Because her boss, the President of the United States, is making money hand over fist, $1.4 billion over the course of the last year through cryptocurrency holdings. I think what is happening at the Department of Justice is a disgrace, Mr. Chairman, and I would urge you to gain control of this hearing. With that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Yeah. I would ask the gentleman, does he agree with the standing up of the Deputy Attorney General for dealing with fraud? That's something that's happened in this administration. First time. You talked about Penn. That happened with this Justice Department.
We're talking about this committee. Mr. Chairman, had you answered the question, had the Attorney General answered the question in that way, perhaps this hearing would have some modicum of resembling something that has typically been fairly conventional, an oversight hearing of the Department of Justice.
That is not expired. The gentlelady from Wyoming.
Oh my Lord.
The New York recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, I went over to the department yesterday for a couple of hours to review some of the unredacted materials. And I am looking forward to your detailed explanation for why you have withheld almost half of the documents, which is required by the bill. Now, obviously, there are 3 million documents, so I didn't get through much. But one thing I didn't see was the client list that you said you had on your desk a year ago. I did, however, find a couple of important documents. An 86-page prosecution memo from the Southern District of New York, and a draft indictment from Florida against Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirators. For reasons that I cannot understand nor are permitted by the bill, they were still redacted, even for members of Congress. So, Ms. Bondi, will you commit right here to immediately providing those 2 documents in unredacted form to members of Congress? Not a complicated question.
Well, I guess it is for you because you have a law degree and those are privileged.
Oh.
Okay. They're not privileged, but we will discuss that later. I also found an email that I have right here from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell that was unredacted. And it included notes of statements that Donald Trump made about his prior relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, there is no reason for this to be hidden from the American people. There is no privilege, there is no attorney-client privilege, and I see you're checking with your staff, and I can assure you, staff, this is not under attorney-client privilege because it was sent from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell. Will you commit to publicly providing the unredacted version of this so that the American people can understand the extent of Donald Trump's lies about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein?
You're about as good of a lawyer today as you were when you tried to impeach President Trump in 2016. Have you apologized for that in 2019?
So will you unredact this? Will you
You're
unredact
lead
this?
counsel on that. Privileged.
I'm asking you, will you unredact this?
Privileged.
Privileged, of course. I look forward to discussing this more. Now, these are obviously improper redactions.
And let me stop you a minute.
I'm talking.
If they're not privileged,
quiet.
Don't yell at me. If they're not
Mr. Chairman, would you stop the clock? This is on your time. It's not on Mr. Goldman.
They're not privileged.
You used your improper redaction.
You'll like my answer.
To continue to protect
time
belongs to the member.
Happy to release them.
We'll stop the clock. We'll stop the clock. Time belongs to the member. Go ahead.
Even though you used improper redactions to protect Donald Trump and other predators associated with Jeffrey Epstein, you did the exact opposite thing with the survivors and victims of this scheme. So their identification information was really the only thing required to be redacted, and it was not. And it's clear this was not a mistake. This was not by accident. This was not because you only had 30 days when you really used 75, and that doesn't even include all the hours last March that you were redacting it. But I'll tell you why it's clear it wasn't a mistake. There is an email entitled Epstein Victim List. There are 32 names. 1 is redacted. 31 are not. So someone looked at it and decided to redact something. And I will tell you that that is clearly intentional to intimidate these survivors and victims. Now, in an interview last week...
How will you tell me that's intentional?
In an interview last week, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche...
You can't go off script.
...said that any victim that wants to speak with the department has done so, hopefully. Well, thanks to the incredibly brave people sitting here behind you, we can actually ask them if that's true. Now, would the survivors and victims who are here please stand up one more time? Just by show of hands, how many of you or your loved ones actually have met with the Department of Justice and provided testimony and estimate and evidence? None. And of those of you who have not met, which is everyone, how many of you have reached out either individually or through a lawyer or representative to offer to provide testimony and evidence? All of them. And of those of you, all of you who have reached out, how many of you were denied or ignored by the Department of Justice? All of them. And despite the shameful and despicable efforts by Ms. Bondi and her department to intimidate you, how many of you are still willing to speak to the Department of Justice? All of them. Well, Ms. Bondi, it looks like you have some more witnesses to talk
expired.
And I yield back.
We will go to the good gentleman from North Carolina, Congressman Knott. Thank
May
you.
I have a moment, Congressman?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Here we go. Here's the photograph. This is why he wanted to repeat everything that had been said previously on Epstein. This is his state, New York. You probably don't even know who this is. Wahid Mohammed from Afghanistan.
Yes, because I'm no longer a prosecutor.
Convicted of assault. Wow, he represents New York. Wow, yet he doesn't care about the illegal aliens convicted of crimes. Assault and homicide. No longer a prosecutor, so he doesn't care about his constituents. Here we go.
Wait, I'm so sorry. Wait. Did she refuse to answer the question and then deflect but them POCs? Is that what she's doing? Did she just randomly bring up, like, people of color?
Arson, El Salvador, Miguel Palacios. Fermin Flores Ramales, Mexico, rape.
Let's talk about the 70% of immigrants who are detained without a criminal conviction or arrest.
Stop the clock.
Wait, I'm so confused. Why would people need to be talking about these people because they were arrested? She doesn't make any sense. If they've all been convicted and charged, why would people need to continue talking about them? Like, you know, they were held accountable. I'm confused. Okay.
Recognize.
May I respond? First, you showed it. I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're going to answer
theatrics
the
are
question the way I
ridiculous.
asked it.
Chairman Jordan, I'm not going to get in the gutter with these people, but I'm going to answer the question.
How many have you indicted?
Again, the time belongs to
Reclaiming my time.
The time belongs.
I think it's very
Reclaiming
interesting.
my time.
I think it's very interesting.
You can
When
reclaim
he
your
talks
time,
about they
Reclaiming my time,
indicted,
Mr.
the
Chairman.
president said they indicted him twice.
Mr. Chairman, please
They
stop the
sure
clock
did.
and stop the clock and restore his time.
Okay, here we go with these
Committee will get in order.
theatrics.
The time belongs to the gentleman from New York. We will give you a few more seconds. We will do that. But when you ask a question, the witness gets to answer. You may not like the answer, but she gets to answer.
The question was, how many of Epstein?
They don't like the answer, Chairman,
my time.
because it's honest.
Reclaiming-
So he asked a
Reclaiming my
4-minute question.
Restore 45
and
seconds,
I am
Mr.
going
Nadler, please,
to
Mr. Chairman.
answer.
You can let her filibuster all day long, but not on our watch. Not on our time. No way. And I told you about that, Attorney General, before you started.
You don't tell me.
Yeah, I did tell you because we saw what you did in the Senate.
You're a lawyer. You're not even a lawyer.
Committee will be in order.
Time, and I should get back at least 45 seconds.
We will give you a few more seconds. I said that already.
45 seconds.
Okay, I'm timing right now, Mr. Nadler.
During my time, the answer to my question, how many of Epstein's co-conspirators has she indicted, is 0. You have been the Attorney General for a whole year, and your DOJ fired the lead prosecutor of this case, sat on evidence this entire time, and claimed falsely last July that there were no more leads. It took an act of Congress for you to finally release part of the Epstein files, and when you did, you included personal information about the victims while protecting the names of abusers.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
Brought to justice, but enormous resources.
Time of the gentleman has expired, and obviously
it's clear that under your leadership, the Department of Justice
there was
no longer
no
works
question in there.
It works
to respond to.
Trump. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back.
Oh my. Oh my.
The a unanimous consent?
Yes, please.
All right, the gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Chair, I have a few unanimous consent requests. I would like to submit into the record this New York Times article titled Alex Brady's Friends and Family Denounce Sickening Lies About His Life. I also would like to submit this Daily Mail exclusive interview with Vice President J.D. Vance titled J.D. Vance Refuses to Apologize to Alex Brady's Family After Spreading ICE Assassin Claim. One more. My last submission request is a New York Times article titled FBI Agent Who Tried to Investigate ICE Officer in Shooting Resigns.
Without objection.
Thank you.
The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from North Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attorney General Bondi, I think you and pretty much everybody else here
Oh, what just happened? Sorry.
and throughout the country believes that convicted sex offenders don't deserve special treatment or privileges in prison. And yet Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirator, received perk after perk in prison. In July, she had a 2-day interview with your deputy and President Trump's former defense attorney, Todd Blanche. Just days after that, Maxwell was transferred from a federal correctional institution in Florida to a minimum security camp in Texas, which she, as a sex offender, would normally be ineligible for. At this new facility, as the ranking member talked about, and by the way, it's nicknamed Club Fed, we've heard reports that she's been afforded special privileges, puppy tie, private workouts,
what the hell?
Mail, secretarial services. Attorney General Bondi, does a convicted sex offender like Ghislaine Maxwell deserve special treatment and privileges in prison? Yes or no?
Let me be crystal clear on this. No. And
Thank you.
Let me keep going. No, let me keep going.
Perfect. Well, I
did not know she was being transferred.
I asked you yes or no.
She was not transferred to a lower
Mr. Chairman, please stop the clock and remind the witness of the rules. One rule she needs to understand
and I'm glad that we're agreeing. So when we're agreeing, we can move on to some other things. But I want you to know that every time she does get these perks, and it's been publicly reported, that the folks she's abused, the survivors who are sitting here, they see themselves as being denied justice. They feel re-traumatized. And I'm glad that we agree on that. But she should not be in that prison. And she needs to be moved back to a maximum security prison as soon as possible. But what she has told another committee here is that she won't cooperate with them unless she gets clemency from Donald Trump. It's just crazy to consider that she can be wielding this kind of influence within the administration. But that begs the question, who ordered her to be transferred to the minimum security prison that she was ineligible for? Who signed off on the special privileges? Was it Mr. Blanche? Was it one of your other subordinates? So please, can you tell us who sent her there, since you don't agree she should be there?
I said I do not agree she should receive special treatment. She was transferred, I learned after the fact, to the same level facility, and that is a question for the Bureau of Prisons. I was not involved in that at all. The same level facility, I don't know why, but instead of talking about Ghislaine Maxwell, who hopefully will die in prison, you should be talking about Irina Zarutska.
I have a couple
who
of
died
other
on a
questions.
subway.
Right, and
you don't talk about that.
I have been talking about it and actually helping with these issues. But we're going to move back to you.
I bet we are.
Yes, of course, because you're here to testify. That's what the whole point of this endeavor is. So of course we're moving back to you. It is all about you. So as we've heard, she took the fifth in response to every single question in that committee hearing. And her lawyer dangled the offer of clemency. Should Donald Trump pardon or commute her sentence? Should she be released from prison? Yes or no? You said you hope she dies there, so I'm hoping the answer is no.
I already answered that question.
Good. I'm very glad. I really like this bipartisan agreement about
when
what
it
should
agrees
happen.
with you. But you don't want to talk about Irina Zarutska. You don't want to talk about
I talk about
murdered
her all
by
the
a
time,
violent crime
but I am not here to testify before Congress. You are. That is your job today.
You're
That's what you're getting paid
obsessed with attack.
I want you to know that your own DOJ employee, he's recently been demoted and had some other problems, advises on pardons. Do you think he will be advising Mr. Trump on any kind of clemency or pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell?
I'm not going to speculate, and you couldn't even identify properly. That's why you don't want to talk about Irina Zarutska. You couldn't properly identify her relative.
I absolutely
it's embarrassing.
Have been, and her family, by the way, appreciates all of the condolences, all of the help, everything that our law enforcement in North Carolina has been doing.
I'm so confused. Doesn't she sound like the debaters that come on TikTok?
It's expired date.
That's what it sounds like to me, I'm not gonna lie. You know, the deflecting and all that stuff.
Very briefly to her statement.
I think we can do that probably on one of our members.
Okay, thank you. I don't want that to get away. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Behind me, I have 3 documents from the DOJ production that are emblematic of the massive failure of the DOJ to comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. To my right is an email that was sent by the victim's lawyers to the DOJ. It was a list of names not to redact. A list of names not to release. What did the DOJ do with this email? They released this email in the document production. Literally the worst thing you could do to the survivors, you did. And they're getting phone calls. A lot of these people didn't want to be known. And we know you touched the document because you redacted one name and you redacted the lawyer's name, but you left the survivor's name there. The next document I want to show you, that was in the title, the victim's survivors' names, all right? The title of this one is Child Sex Trafficking, Co-Conspirators, fully redacted. And by the way, we don't redact them here.
Oh.
Les Wexner is in this.
Oh.
Now your your deputy attorney general said, oh, well, he appears hundreds of times in the files. But he doesn't appear in this file until I forced you to release it, where he's listed as a co-conspirator, not to tax evasion, but to child sex trafficking, not to prostitution, not to money laundering, child sex trafficking. And then finally, what we have here is the third exhibit that I have is emblematic of the FD 302 release. These are the documents that we need, that you're holding on to and over-redacting because they have the names of the men who are implicated. How do we know? because the survivors gave testimony to the FBI, and it's in there. And what happens when you go to the portal at the DOJ to look at what's behind this redaction? Another redaction. So we can't even see them. And then there's some of these files you've pulled down from the website that we will never see because we can't search the redactions. So I have several questions for you. Who's responsible? Are you able to track who in your organization made this massive failure and released the victims' names? Are you able to track who it was that obscured Les Wexner's name as a co-conspirator in an FBI document? Do you have that kind of accountability?
I believe Wexner's name was listed more than 4,000 times.
Yeah, I already told you that. This is where he's listed as a co-conspirator.
Can I finish my answer? Come on, let me finish my answer. We corrected that within 40 minutes. He was already, you're acting like everybody's trying to cover up Wexner's name.
Reclaiming my time.
I'm going to answer this question.
Reclaiming my time. Mr. Chairman.
This is how this works.
Can I have my time back?
Mr.
Chairman.
The gentlelady can give her answer. The time belongs to the gentleman from.
All right, I'm reclaiming my time.
Can I give my answer?
So I'm going to put the language of the bill up on the screen.
Chairman, may I give my answer on that? It's a political joke, and I need to give my answer on that.
We'll let the Attorney General respond, and then the gentleman can move to the next question.
My time.
Within 40 minutes, you asked me a question. Within 40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
There was one redaction
where he's listed as a co-conspirator.
And we invited you in. This guy has Trump derangement syndrome. He needs to. You're a failed politician.
I want you to watch the video.
Chairman, please restore his time and remind the witness of the rules here.
There is no credible information.
Wait, what the hell happened?
My position is any victim who comes forward, of course, we would love to hear from them. 1-800-CALL-FBI. Did you ask Merrick Garland that the last 4 years? Did you talk about Epstein?
I'm reclaiming my time. I'm glad you're asking about Merrick Garland.
You don't get to reclaim
because this is bigger than Watergate.
When I don't answer a question the way
this goes over 4 administrations. You don't have to go back to Biden. Let's go back to Obama. Let's go back to George Bush. This cover-up spans decades, and you are responsible for this portion of it.
And that's
now,
where the
I want to know at what point did the FBI and the DOJ decide that Lex Wexner was not a co-conspirator? Because our Epstein Files Transparency Act requires you, please put it back on the screen, please, to release the internal decision about whether to prosecute him or not, and it's not in the files, and it's not in the files for any of these other men.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
May she answer?
And he's a hypocrite because he voted against the ban that we were talking about on deep fake AI porn. Only 2 people voted against it, and you were one of them, hypocrite.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, could she answer the question?
Chairman, I was wondering.
The gentlelady's allowed, the Attorney General's allowed to respond the way she wants to respond to any member's questions, Republican, Democrat.
All right, I have unanimous consent request.
Gentleman's recognized for a UC.
All right. This is an example. I'm submitting these 302 forms that are entirely redacted, even when you go to look at them.
Without objection.
I'm submitting a witness statement that implicates Les Wexner.
Without objection.
I'm submitting an article from the New York Times that the DOJ released nude photos and identifiable pictures of the victims. I'm submitting a letter from A.G. Bondi to Kash Patel, imploring him to quit keeping the files when you found out that they were keeping files from you, because they're still redacting files.
Chairman, are we going to recess for votes?
Yes, we are.
I'm submitting for unanimous consent a document of 17 individuals who've resigned because of the Epstein files.
Without objection. Questions recognized.
I'd watch this one.
Young ladies recognized.
Thank you. I seek unanimous consent to introduce into the record the research that Representative Kamlager-Dove and I referenced concerning
answering questions, but instead I'm going to ask some very basic questions really quickly of my colleague, Becca Ballant, if she will answer right or wrong, raping children.
Wrong.
Right or wrong, killing random citizens.
Definitely wrong.
Right or wrong, enriching yourself as the sitting president of the United States.
Definitely wrong.
Okay, thank you, because I probably never would have got that with our witness. Our witness who somehow is a lawyer but does not understand how it works with witnesses. I'm not really sure what law school she went to and what all kind of cases she tried, but typically when you come into a space and somebody's a witness, then they sit there and they answer questions instead of asking questions. And then we also have this objection that we use as lawyers called non-responsive when a witness fails to actually answer the question. But nevertheless, let me address the survivors, because that's exactly who they are. They are not victims, they are survivors. Let me say thank you for having more courage and moral clarity in your pinky fingers than the entire Department of Justice. We are currently the laughing stock of the world, partially because of the failed leadership within the DOJ, as we see kings and queens falling everywhere around the world. But we don't know the basics of right and wrong in this country, because it's not about partisanship. And that's why I applaud Thomas Massey, because he's the only person on the Republican side that has a backbone and knows how to stand up to corruption. But nevertheless, let me keep going. My Democratic colleagues have been attacked this entire committee hearing. They have been lied on, and frankly, the American people weren't looking for that. They were looking for answers about the corruption that they see coming from this administration. In the written testimony of this witness, of this particular witness, she stated that when she took office, she had two main goals. The first was to end the weaponization of justice, and second, to return the department to its core mission. Not only have you lied about both, you've intentionally done the exact opposite. You're spending more taxpayer resources arresting journalists than you are prosecuting pedophiles and creeps. In fact, your boss, the President of the United States, stated that this administration, quote, took the freedom of speech away. And at your direction, DOJ has arrested Don Lemon and Georgia Fort. And I might add that y'all actually had a judge that rejected y'all for trying to arrest Don Lemon before, just like the grand jury rejected y'all as it relates to Senator Kelly, just like a grand jury rejected y'all as it relates to Senator Slotkin, just like the case against Tish James was dismissed and the case against Mr. Comey was dismissed. I completely don't get how it is that you're sitting at the top of DOJ, because you don't seem to be good at your job. You're spending more taxpayer resources arresting these journalists. In fact, we know after Georgia Fort and Don Lemon were arrested, we know that there were homes of journalists that were raided. We know that threatened prosecution against students protesting your actions and forced tech companies to remove apps used to track ISIS activities. But let's circle back to you protecting pedophiles and creeps, because I want to talk about the president and his possible involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I don't know what the president might have done with Jeffrey Epstein, but unlike this administration, I believe that facts matter. So let's talk about the facts. Fact number one, Donald Trump is one of the most named people in the Epstein files. At least 5,000 files contains more than 38,000 references to Trump, his wife, or Mar-a-Lago. Fact number two, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell made young girls available to Trump on multiple occasions. For example, according to this file, Ghislaine Maxwell presented a young girl to President Trump who spent more than 20 minutes apparently flirting with her. Here's another example. This shows notes from FBI investigators that describe Jeffrey Epstein transporting a victim to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President Trump, where he bragged to Trump that, quote, this is a good one. Now, I'm not saying that the president is a pedophile, but there is a lot of evidence in these files that suggests that he's very close friends with a lot of men who are pedophiles. What's crazy about all of this is just that this is a big cover-up. And this administration is engaged in it. In fact, this administration is complicit. But there are numerous others, like how the DOJ is attempting to obstruct justice in the investigation of the rogue agents who have murdered American citizens, or how the DOJ seized voter data from Fulton County in an attempt to steal the 2026 midterm elections, or how federal agents have Tom Homan on tape accepting a bribe and your agency killed the investigation, or how your agency is ready to give the president a $230 million payday, which is unconstitutional. The Constitution is clear. The president shall not receive any payment except his salary while in office. The fact of the matter is that you will be remembered as one of the worst attorney generals in history. An attorney general who has prioritized obstruction over justice, corruption over the law, fealty to the president over loyalty to the Constitution. And Mr. Chairman, I will yield.
Gentleman yields. Gentleman from Missouri is recognized. Excuse me, gentleman from Kansas, the Attorney General, former Attorney General, Mr. Schmidt is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and General Bondi, thanks for being here. Did you have anything you wanted to say before we talk?
I do. Thank you, Congressman. Thank you, my friend, for many years. I find it interesting that she didn't even want to try, Congresswoman Crockett, to ask any questions, because she certainly did not condemn her leader, Hakeem Jeffries, for taking money from Jeffrey Epstein after Epstein was convicted. And I will be brief to give you your time, Congressman. This is what she didn't want to talk about. Texas, from Cuba, convicted, homicide, arson, weapon offense.
Convicted. So what we talking about? Convict some of these perpetrators that rape these women that are sitting behind you, that you refuse to even acknowledge they are here.
Time belongs to the gentleman from Kansas.
Mr. Chairman, could I have a few seconds back to make up for the yelling? Thank you. General, did you have anything further to say?
Texas, convicted of homicide, Cecil Joseph from Dominican Republic. Texas, convicted for kidnapping, rape, Khalid Khan from Afghanistan. That's why they want to talk about Epstein and not what's happening in their own states.
Thank you, General, and thank you for being here. And
Wait, what does that have to do with the Epstein files? Just randomly brought up some brown people who got convicted. Okay. Crazy. I do want to go to the
Attorney General's fiery hearing. From your hands, if you were satisfied with what you heard from the Attorney General today. Nobody. Show of hands if you are frustrated with what you heard.
Very much so.
Very much so. Teresa, tell me more about that.
Well, going into this morning, and much of this process, I have this perspective that you need to give people the opportunity to do what they say they're going to do, to fulfill their word, put their money where their mouth is, so to speak. And we have yet again seen that go the complete opposite direction of there's no integrity. There was no integrity in that room today, it seemed like, as far when it came to Epstein and Maxwell. You know, there was a lot of expression of other good outcomes on things, and I can agree with a lot of what was said, and there was nothing that gave us any bit of hope of any kind of integrity and doing the right thing when it comes to Epstein Maxwell accountability, further investigation, which she claimed was happening, and we're going to be waiting to see the outcome of that and see if that's an accurate, legitimate statement.
Danny, I see you nodding and shaking your head.
I think there was such a lack of empathy today. There was such a lack of, honestly, humanity today. Something that, I think all of us felt a little devastated about was that she had 3 opportunities to address survivors. We stood up, and all she had to do was turn around, and she could not even turn around and face us. For so many years, and I can't speak for everybody, but for me, I felt like such a ghost walking through Epstein's mansion. I felt like there were so many people who saw me. There were so many people who should have spoken up. And instead, I felt like I was less than nothing. And now to not have AG Bondi turn around and acknowledge us, it is the exact same type of victimization. It's horrible.
Charlene, what did you think of that moment when you all were standing there and she was asked by one of the members of Congress to turn around and address you?
I felt really degraded. I felt that she's not taking at all any accountability. She's not following any kind of transparency. And honestly, the thought that I have is birds of a feather flock together. So I feel like the way that she handled today is often the way that our president or other people have treated us that are really high up. And I felt like she was treating us just like everybody else has in the justice system and beyond.
I was looking at you all. The cameras there had shown a view of you in that moment on your feet in front of this hearing room, in front of all of these cameras. And I wonder, Jess, Liz, all of you, if you can take me, what was going inside in your mind? What was happening in your mind? What were you thinking as that moment was happening?
So one of the things I was thinking in that moment is that it is such a simple act to turn around and say, I apologize for the terrible job our DOJ did in releasing, that is something that is completely inappropriate. To take responsibility for that, for the damage they did to us, not to state it as, yes, we understand damage was done. No, to us. It was such a simple thing. And it's something we teach children, to take accountability, to recognize when you've made a mistake and you just apologize for it. So there wasn't even an adult in the room that could apologize for the damage done to children and girls.
I wanted to read something out to you guys, okay? This is, in my opinion, a beautiful poem that was written by a good sis of mine, Anne. She goes by Orchid in the chat. Y'all probably know her because she always yells at y'all to like the live and to act right in the chat, okay? She wrote a really beautiful poem, and I really wanted to read that because it resonates. There was a market once where girls were catalogued like jewels. Fancy, they said, a delicate word for a brutal economy. Silk on the skin, chains at the ankle, childhood translated into price. Not rumor, not metaphor, but a system where bodies were assets and innocence was something to be sold. Epstein is not an aberration. He is an echo. New century, old logic. Wield as wealth as shield, youth as commodity, silence as design, power as protection. History does not vanish, it lingers patient. Whenever bodies become currency and influence becomes immunity, the past speaks again. Right? If you studied the true history of white supremacy, you would not call this unthinkable. You would recognize the pattern. Bodies renamed as property, violence renamed as commerce, children reduced to margins and profit. Nothing about exploitation is new. Only the costumes change. Only the language softens. The machinery is old. Nothing is new under the sun. Not the appetite, not the shield of wealth, not the architecture of silence. We rename horrors. We repackage cruelty. We call each scandal an exception. Yet the mirror does not lie. It shows us again and again what power does when it believes it will never be touched. And I wanted to highlight this poem. By the way, my good sis Anne, okay? My good sis Anne, Orchid in Exile in the chat wrote this, okay? Orchid in Exile in the chat wrote this. And I really, really wanted to highlight this. The reasons why I wanted to highlight this is there's nothing new under the sun. Every single thing that we have read within the Epstein files that are legitimately horrific. The breeding farms, the trafficking, the rape, the selling of children, parents, children being taken away from the parents, the abuse, the random unaliving, the mass graves. These are things that were done to Black people every single day for 400 years. So every single thing that Epstein has been doing is not an aberration of American society. It is literally as American pie, as apple pie. Every single thing that Epstein has done in these files to these girls is as American as apple pie. These are things that the American government has been doing to people, to Black people, to indigenous people, to minorities for centuries. And if you can put a face to it now, if you can put a name to it, and if it horrifies you to the point where you can barely sleep at night or you feel nauseous, imagine it happening for centuries. Then now imagine you telling those same people who experienced that to get over it. Yet you are feeling nauseous when you hear one story. Because I know I feel nauseous. I feel very nauseous after every single story. Right? I feel very nauseous after every single story. Right? So I really wanted to read this poem that was written by Anne, because I really wanted to show y'all and to illustrate that this is a pattern of behavior. A pattern of behavior of what the ultra rich have been doing. Right? It's a pattern of behavior. So hopefully that makes you understand, or gives you a glimpse, or invokes within you some level of empathy or compassion for people who have been going through this for centuries. Because now when you one death or one story is a tragedy, but 1,000 becomes a statistic. So now when you read the stories, when you put a face to the stories, when you put a name to the stories, you realize how horrific it is. If it's just 1,000, it becomes a statistic, it becomes way too abstract. And that's precisely why it is up to you to destroy and dismantle the system that is doing that to vulnerable people. Because it's still doing that to vulnerable people. Y'all think it stopped because Epstein stopped? Abso-fucking-lutely not. How many Epsteins are out there in the world? There are multiple. There are multiple Epsteins out there. Okay? Multiple Epsteins out there. The point is, though, you have to get rid of it at the root. Of course, follow my girl Orchid in Exile, by the way. Follow her. She's really good writer, very creative. She also does really nice drawings, by the way. Just wanted to kind of highlight her work as well, right? She is an amazing Haitian American woman who I highly, highly respect. Speaking of Haiti, Haitians are really, really going through it right now. Are also having their country actively destabilized by outside forces. So if you want to help Haiti, there is an amazing initiative for Haiti in the link tree in my bio. If you want to help displaced Haitian children who are vulnerable, which we discussed Haiti in the live today, by the way, because one of the billionaires, Michael Capone, said that he loved going to Haiti, right? So if you want to help displaced Haitian children, there's an amazing Haitian initiative in the link tree in my bio. And if you can't donate because you're struggling, that's perfectly fine. You can share it with people that you know, and maybe you might find somebody who has enough in money to donate. Exactly, the link tree in my bio, by the way. The link tree in my bio also includes multiple other initiatives, by the way. There are initiatives for Sudan, there are initiatives for Congo, free all of these countries, because a lot of people are struggling on a global basis. So yeah, if you feel generous and you want to kind of donate a bit, there's an amazing initiative within the link tree within my bio, by the way, for all these initiatives, including Eritrean refugees who are also currently suffering in northern Ethiopia and starving too, by the way. So yeah, I think I wanted to end it here with the words of my good sis, Anne, Orchid in Exile. She's in the chat. She's the mod who yells at y'all in the chat. If y'all don't act right, she yells at y'all, okay? I just wanted to say I'm gonna come back live tomorrow again at 2 p.m. Eastern. If you're a survivor, I hope these lives give you some comfort, because they make you realize that people care. Okay? Hope they make you realize that people care. So I just want to tell you, if you're a survivor, I see you, I hear you, I believe you, and it was never your fault. Regardless of what anybody told you, it was never your fault. Anyways, do something nice for yourselves for now. I'm gonna try to do something nice for myself. I'll see y'all tomorrow. This makes me feel like I'm not alone. Of course you're not alone. Of course you're not alone. Okay? As a community, people can go through the Epstein files together instead of doing it on your own. Of course you're not alone. You're never alone. I appreciate y'all so much. If you want to support me and if you want to continue coming to my lives, then you can definitely follow me and come join the lives, because I'm going to go live tomorrow again. I'm going to continue with Les Wexner, because he's crazy, insane. Like, not crazy, sorry, that's actually ableist. My bad. Let me take that back. I'm trying to erase that word from my vocabulary, because it's ableist, and we do take ableism serious as well, okay? We're gonna deal with Les Wexner, okay? That man is diabolical. He's evil. And so tomorrow is also going to be dedicated to him. So do follow me. If you want to support me as well, you can definitely subscribe. If you want to support the deep dives that I do, you can also gift me. I much appreciate to all the people who were generous up until now who gifted me. My pay link is also in my bio if you do want to support me, because Black women's labor is not for free during Black History Month, okay? So pay link is in my bio. If you want a Cash App, you can also DM me. I will send you the Cash App. Yeah. Or ever. Exactly. Or ever. Black women's labor is never free. 100%. Should I end it with a good Eritrean song? Should I end it with a good Eritrean song? I'll end it with a good Eritrean song. As y'all know, I'm originally Eritrean, right? And I love introducing new people to Eritrean cultures. If you guys don't know what Eritrean is, Eritrea is a beautiful country in the Horn of Africa. I'm originally from there, right? My ancestors are from there. So I love introducing people to Eritrean music. And I think I'm gonna do that. So, you know, so y'all feel a bit, what's it called? Less, you know, kind of upbeat a bit, you know, joy, a little bit of joy, a little bit of music therapy, because we did deal with some really heavy work, right? So, yeah. Tell me she's not beautiful. Ah. By the way, if people ask me why I highlight this, I highlight Eritrean cultures because Eritrean people went through a 30-year genocide and liberation struggle where we lost 20% of our population. And during that genocide, Eritrean people still preserved this culture. So people were willing to die for this culture. Okay? So if people are willing to die for this culture, then it is incredibly important to continue preserving this culture too. And that's precisely why I highlight the culture. You can't tell me you're not dancing. Hey, hey. You can't tell me you're not dancing. Shaking them shoulders wherever you are. Hey, hey. You're in the kitchen cooking, shaking them shoulders. At your job, shaking them shoulders. At the grocery store, shaking them shoulders. At the gym, shaking them shoulders. In your home, shaking them shoulders. Hey, 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 hey. Roma, 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 hey, hey. Okay. Cooking and dancing, exactly. Ciao. Hey, 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 hey. The language that she's singing in is called Tigrinya, by the way. So Eritrea as a country has 9 ethnic groups, 9 different languages, and this is one of the languages. Hey, 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 hey. Also, the last thing I want to end it with, by the way, is a Sudanese song. And Tigrinya, yes, exactly, Angie. That's it. I want to end it with a Sudanese song because, thank you, by the way, for everybody who's listening. Sudanese people are really, really suffering right now. They're going through the worst humanitarian crisis out there. The genocide. Hi, Nasib. Hi, brother. It's really bad. And that's why I really talk about Sudan. A lot of my content is also a lot of my content is just generally about Black people. But I do also highlight the genocide that is happening in Sudan. And so I do also want to end it with a Sudanese song. And it's really bad. Like, so many people are literally being unalived within Sudan, to the point where you can see it from space. Literally from space, you can see it, right? That's how many people are being unalived. 60,000 people were unalived in one city, in Al Fashir, in 3 weeks. Yes, from satellite, from space. 60,000 people were unalived in 3 weeks, okay? So I wanted to pay an homage, basically, pay respects to Sudanese people by playing this song that I really, really like from a Sudanese singer called Samani. It's in Arabic, but it has a translation. So, yeah.
It's really simple, all we want is freedom. No violence and brutality. together and we march together to make our dream a reality. It's really simple, all we want is justice, no violence and brutality. We fight together and we march together for peace and equality. ما راجعنا لي مطالب، ما راجعنا لي مطالب. جيبوا حكومة الحكم المدني، دم الكوز الكتب الطالب. مدنية 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 سلمية 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 مطالب.
His name is Sammani, by the way. Sammani Matalib. If you want to support Sudanese people, there is an amazing Sudanese initiative within the link tree in my bio called Darfur IDP that actively works on the ground. I know like some of the people who work on it. Amazing initiative. Genuinely amazing. So everything is a link tree in my bio, by the way. I love y'all for the generosity you've shown me. I love y'all for the amount of kindness that you've shown me, the kind messages that you guys always send me, the way that you like, share, support, donate. You're so generous as well. So I love y'all so much. I will be back tomorrow. What's it called? I'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. CET, German time, okay? Love y'all. As per usual, free Haiti, free Sudan, free Eritrea, free Congo, okay? I love y'all so much. Free black people everywhere, okay? Just want to say that. See y'all tomorrow.
HP.
Objective here. Rally.
An enemy. Is that the Wu Yang thing going on? We're just dead. We're just turbo dead. I'm turbo dead now. These things aren't gonna really get appreciated.
Try to keep up.
I think we're moving back fast.
Incoming.
Yeah, if I bring the Sigma into our team control. Bring the Sigma in. Okay, turn, burn him.
Behind you. The universum sings for light.
Burning and burning.